Chapter 11. In the Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm, one's muscles, bones and even skins will be tempered, causing one's strength to soar rapidly. The difference between it and Zhenqi realm is like heaven to earth. Yet, the brat in Zhenqi realm is able to cause a Pigu realm expert to vomit blood with just a single slap. Everyone found the sight unbelievable. Besides, wasn't this fellow the last in the sparring during the teacher qualification examination? Why is he so strong now? It must just be a coincidence. Do not fear him. Qian Biao howls. One of the teachers also agrees with what Qian Biao says and charges over. Just like Li Yuan, he has reached Pigu realm advanced stage. His muscles are just like metal tendons and his skin is just like a metal plate, giving an impression of indestructibility. You shall fall to the ground. Stepping forward, this teacher lifts his eyebrow and prepares to smack him with his palm. Pa pa. The compression of the air results in explosive sonic booms. Facing the other party's ruthless blows, Zhang Zan remains calm. With his forefinger and middle finger together, he strikes upwards at a slanted angle. Pada. The teacher, whose body is like a metal plate, feels a slight pain at his armpits before his vision went dark and he collapses onto the floor. What? In 2 strikes, 2 Fighter 4 Dan teachers were defeated. The remaining 2 teachers, including Qian Biao, knows that the teacher whom they had been looking down upon isn't as simple as they thought to be. Let's attack together. With a loud roar, Qian Biao raises his fist and charges over. However, even before he made a move, Zhang Zan suddenly appears right before him. His left hand grabs his face while his right hand pokes him lightly. Patong! A pain in the abdomen and Qian Biao collapses to the floor as well. The moment his body hits the floor, the last teacher whom he teamed up with also falls to the ground and convulses as though he is epileptic. You! How did you know all of our Mingmen? With a spurt of fresh blood, Qian Biao stares at the fellow in front of him in fright. He finally understands why, even though the other party's strength is far from them, the results ended in the direct opposite. Their opponent found the Mingmen of their cultivation the moment he strikes. How could they have possibly expected this and guard against it? All cultivators would tend to have a Mingmen as their weakness, and the moment it is struck, even if the person striking is a child, it would be possible to kill the person. However, Mingmen is the core of a human, thus cultivators would protect it carefully. Even the closest kin would not know where their Mingmen is. Although Zhang Zan does not possess strong cultivation, he seems to know where their Mingmen is and strikes at their vitals directly. How could they resist against someone like that? Hearing his words of astonishment, Zhang Zan smiles without explaining. Of course, it is through the Library of Heaven's path. Not only does the Library of Heaven's path allows him to see through flaws in one's cultivation techniques, he is also able to see the personal problems of the cultivator and his Mingmen. They are all written in detail on it. Knowing his opponent's Mingmen and the weaknesses in their skills, even if Zhang Zan transcended from Earth and still isn't very familiar with the skills of this foreign world, it is still a simple task to subdue the 4 of them. Since you all chose to accept the bet, you all should have prepared yourself for the consequences of losing the bet. If you all had obediently allowed me to slap you all, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Zhang Zan chuckles. Zhang Zan, you don't need to get gleeful over it. I don't know what kind of despicable methods you used to find out where our Mingmen is to wound me, but as the least experienced teacher, you attacked other teachers in public. Just by this alone, I am able to send a complaint letter to the academy to have your teacher qualification revoked. Qian Biao howls. There are clear levels between teachers in the academy. For lower-level teachers to make a move against higher-level teachers is an immoral action. Zhang Zan is young, and he also scored 0 for his teacher qualification examination. Thus, he is considered as one of the least qualified teacher in the academy. For him to wound 4 people who are more qualified than him, if the academy were to be informed of this incident, there would definitely be an uproar. His teacher qualification license being revoked is a small matter. it might be possible for him to be directly expelled. Why? Since you can't defeat me using martial arts, you want to try the rules to suppress me? Despite facing such threats, Zhang Zan doesn't seem to be bothered by it. Indeed, Li Yuan is also thinking about this. Excitement and cruelty flash across his eyes. If you obediently kneel before us now and allow us to beat you up, perhaps when our moods lift, we won't report the incident. Otherwise, prepare to be fired. After being fired from your position, without your identity as a teacher protecting you, no one will say anything even if you were killed. Another teacher howls. In Tianquan Kingdom, the teachers of an academy are of high social status. The moment they lose their job, their social status would also fall correspondingly. If so, the few of them would really dare to make a move to kill him. Since you all want to deal with this using rules, alright, I will also deal with this using rules then. With a tranquil gaze, he walks a few steps to Qian Biao and says, Qian Biao Lao Shi, you secretly used Elder Chen Ming's treasure to please your concubine. 3 months ago, you embezzled from the school's fund to buy a house for her. A month ago, when you broke Elder Lu Quan's most beloved porcelain, you pushed the blame onto a student, causing him to be expelled. Do I need to be recounting all of these matters in front of the school leaders? You. Qian Biao's eyes narrow as his plump body twitches uncontrollably. An inconceivable fear surges through his entire body. He looks as though he has seen a ghost and is on the verge of going insane. He committed all of those without leaving behind any traces, so no one knew about it. Even his colleagues, Li Yuan and the others, aren't aware, so this fellow. How did he know about it? Furthermore, with such details? Li Yuan Lao Shi, did the female student, whom you robbed of her dignity that resulted in her suicide from 3 years ago, return as a vengeful spirit to look for you? A few days ago, you grew an acne on your back. Perhaps, this could be her seeking you for revenge. Ignoring Qian Biao's terrified expression, Zhang Zan turns to look at Li Yuan. Ah! Hearing those words, Li Yuan hurriedly backs away from fright as his face drains of all color. 3 years ago, he was enchanted by a beautiful female student and he humiliated her, causing her to commit suicide from the shame. This incident was very covert and except for him, no one knew about it. Due to his conscience acting up against him, throughout the 3 years, he often dreamt of the other party coming to reap his life as a vengeful spirit. Furthermore, half a month ago, a giant acne in the shape of a human palm grew on his back, scaring him out of his wits. After hearing Zhang Zan recount this event with great details, his entire body trembles uncontrollably out of overwhelming fear. Patong! His knees lost his strength and he kneels onto the floor. A sudden pungent smell wafts around the room. To think a Fighter 4 Dan advanced stage expert would be frightened to the point of peeing out in public. Du Chun Lao Shi, you stole your good brother's business and even poisoned him to death through toxic wine. Although this incident was inconclusive back then, if rumors were to spread out now, do you think that you can continue being a teacher? Bai Lin Lao Shi, there isn't any major flaws in your actions. However, due to your interest in antiques, you have accepted many gifts from the students. If I'm not wrong, the ancient jade ring which you wear should be a gift from back then when a student had something to request of you. As for what the request is about and who the student is, do you still need me to go into details? Looking at the 2 remaining teachers, Zhang Zan states, You are a devil. You aren't human. The remaining 2 teachers are also all frightened out of their wits. This time, their stares are full of fear. Those things that they have done, although it might not be impeccable, they were confident that no outsider would know of it. Yet, how could this fellow be so aware of it? It is as though he is a specter. When he defeated them through his skills, they only felt ashamed, but not fear. However, when he revealed all of their secrets, they were truly terrified. It is as though the multiple clothes on them were instantly ripped to shreds, causing them to stand nude in front of everyone else. They can already imagine that when the information leaks out, Whether they could remain as teachers is already a small affair. In the worst-case scenario, they might be sent to the teacher court and be killed on the spot. We were wrong. Zhang Lao Shi, as a great man, don't bear grudges against minor figures like us. Please spare us. Trembling, they unwillingly beg for mercy. I am lazy to bother with what you all did in the past. Just stop pissing me off in the future. Also, if you all don't change and continue committing more vile actions, I won't mind interfering to ensure that you all would receive punishments proportionate to your crime. Zhang Zan waves his hand in disdain. Actually, if these people didn't get on his nerves, he wouldn't be bothered with them. The Library of Heaven's Path is able to peer into all of one's flaws. Even personality and past actions are counted in its midst. Not to mention that this is only a small portion of the entire book. However, he isn't the savior of the world, so no matter what they did in the past and do in the future, as long as they do not cross his path, he wouldn't be concerned with them. What these people should have never done is to find trouble with him and make things difficult for him. Since you made things difficult for me, I will show you what death looks like. So that you would never dare to think of doing the same the second time. We don't dare, we will never dare to. Zhang Zan Lao Shi, these are the identity tokens that you wanted. Take as much as you want to. Hearing that he would not expose their past actions, Qian Biao and the rest heaves a sigh of relief. Chapter 12. An hour later, Zhang Zan walks out from the logistics branch and his eyes twinkle in excitement. If it had been his previous self, he would have ended up being taken advantage of today. However, with the Library of Heaven's Path, his life took a complete turn towards another direction. Perhaps, it is a blessing for me to transcend over. This kind of exciting life is what I hope for. Zhang Zan clenches his fist and exhales a breath of air. In his previous life, he was only a librarian living a plain and simple life that only rotates around the library in his home. Even if he were to continue on like that, he would only continue claiming his salary and continue with his aimless life. However, things are different here. With a great gift package known as the Library of Heaven's Path, perhaps he would be able to walk further and become stronger. He would be able to live an entirely new and exciting life. At this moment, Zhang Zan has finally become a part of the world. He no longer struggles in his heart over the dilemma between his homeland and this world. Don't pull me. Let me die, I want to die. Just when he is secretly celebrating, he hears a piercing wail from a distance not too far away. It sounds like a frenzied bull, causing one's heart to tear in agony. Turning around, he sees a fatty howling that he would charge towards the man-made lake in the academy and commit suicide by jumping into it. Behind the fatty, no one tries to stop him. The fatty himself also doesn't charge forward despite howling non-stop. Suddenly, he turns around and grabs the palm of a student beside him and puts it on himself, making it seem as though the student is pulling him back. Then, he continues howling. Don't pull me, let me die. I don't want to live anymore. Everyone is speechless. That's too shameless. Zhang Zan shakes his head. This fatty, despite not wanting to die, insists on portraying a fake image of someone restraining himself from committing suicide. He is really shameless. Knowing that this fellow can't possibly die, he can't be bothered with him anymore. Instead, he walks towards his own classroom. Before he could walk far, the howling voice seems to close in on him as the ground tremors. Following which, a pair of thick arms hugs his leg. Teacher, I'm begging you, please accept me as your disciple. They all scorn me because of my size and reject me. The fatty bursts into tears. Let go. Zhang Zan is speechless. Isn't this fellow too eccentric? Rushing over to beg him to accept him as his disciple upon seeing that he is a teacher, Zhang Zan has never seen such a person in his life. Teacher, I will only let go if you accept me. Tears and snot flow freely from the multiple faucets of the fatty. His voice sounds so sorrowful that even those who are watching from the side start to sympathize with him. Today, I have already visited over 10 teachers, but none of them were willing to accept me. This teacher over here, seeing how pitiful I am, please accept me. The examinations among the students would also affect a teacher's evaluation. A plump person like him would tend to have trouble in his battles and his agility. Most renowned teachers would be unwilling to accept him. If you want me to accept you, you would have to at least show me your abilities. What do you expect to achieve by hugging my leg? Zhang Zan says. He possesses the library of heaven's path, so he should have no trouble recruiting students. If this person turns out to be mediocre, Zhang Zan would not accept him as his disciple. Teacher, you have to accept me as your disciple. I am quite capable. The fatty looks up hesitantly before slowly loosening his arms. We have to see before we know whether you are capable or not. There is no use saying so much. Seeing how he is still slightly reluctant to release his grip, Zhang Zan kicks him away scornfully. What is this? It would be one thing for a female student hugging his leg. However, not only is he a male, he is also a fatty. He shivers just by the thought of it. Fine. Look at my abilities. The fatty doesn't feel scorned. He stands up and surveys the surrounding. Then, he carries a few concrete blocks over from a short distance away. After which, lifting one up with his hands, he smashes his head into it. Pong! The concrete block shatters. After which, he carries a few more concrete block and shatters it using his elbow and leg. Without an exception, they all shatter. This fellow may seem plump, but he is skilled in Henglian martial arts. Ignoring his Henglian, Zhang Zan is currently looking through the book that is automatically compiled in his mind. The skills trained through Henglian can also be considered as a type of martial arts. The moment the fatty displays his prowess, the library began to compile his information. Yuan Dao, a wandering cultivator in Diwang City. Fighter 1 Dan Juxi Realm Intermediate. Flaws: 18 aspects. Number 1. The ancient emperor bloodline in his body has yet to be activated. Number 2. His foundations are too weak, the martial arts he trains in. Emperor bloodline? Looking at the records on the book, Zhang Zan is taken aback. After merging with the memories of the previous owner of the body, he knows that in this world, bloodline in one's innate body is very important. As long as one possesses either one of the two along with a suitable method to utilize it, their cultivation will soar by leaps and bounds in the future, causing their strength to increase exponentially. There are many types of innate bodies such as pure yin body, pure yang body, immaculate body, golden body. There are also many types of bloodline such as ancient bloodlines, new bloodlines, inheritances and mutations. Once found, every single one of them would become a target competed over by countless teachers. The emperor bloodline which the fatty possesses is one of the ancient bloodlines. It is said that when those who possess such bloodline reach the peak of their cultivation, their body would be impenetrable, no objects in the world would be able to break through their defenses. It is one of the most powerful bloodlines among defense-based bloodlines. This inconspicuous, fat and shameless fellow would actually possess an ancient bloodline? His ancient bloodline has yet to be activated. From the looks of it, this fellow doesn't seem to be aware of it as well. A glint flashes through Zhang Zan's eyes. Of all types of bloodlines, ancient bloodlines are quite powerful. For this fellow to not be accepted after visiting a dozen of teachers, it doesn't mean that they are unable to recognize such a bloodline. Rather, his bloodline has yet to be activated, causing him to be just like any other normal people. Not mentioning how other people aren't able to discern his bloodline. Probably even he himself doesn't know about it. However, even if he doesn't know, he does have the potential in this aspect. His defensive abilities are much stronger than the others, and that's the reason why he chose to train in this kind of punchbag martial arts. I must accept this fellow under my tutelage. His eyes twinkle. The entire academy might not even witness a single student possessing ancient bloodline throughout a course of multiple years. For such a good bud to appear before him. How can he possibly allow him to escape? Not bad. I will accept you as my student. Come, acknowledge me as your teacher. Zhang Zan suppresses the jubilation in his heart and throws an identity token over to him with a calm face. Teacher, are you really going to accept me? This is great. The fatty seems to have taken quite a few mental blows throughout the day. Upon hearing that a teacher is willing to accept him, he is so excited that he cuts his finger without second thoughts and squeezes a blood droplet on it. It seems that the standard of the teacher determines the standard of the students he would accept. When the teacher is trash, the student would also be trash. At this moment, a cold scorn sounds out. Turning around, Zhang Zan sees a cold and arrogant young man walking over. There is a beautiful lady walking beside the young man. Her pitch-black silky hair flows down her shoulders, her pale skin has a creamy texture to it and her eyes captivate the gaze of those looking into it. Shang Bin? Shen Bai Ru? Upon seeing the two of them, two names immediately float into his head. In the entire academy, there are probably no one who would be unaware of Shen Bai Ru. She doesn't have any unique background, but she is publicly acknowledged as a beautiful teacher. Even the school bell would pale in comparison when compared to her. It wouldn't have meant anything if she was all looks. The crux of it is that she is skilled in teaching as well. Despite being in this academy for less than a year, she has already become one of the most famous teachers in the academy. Noble, elegant, beautiful and intelligent, she attracts the frenzied pursuit of quite a few teachers. Zhang Zan's previous self is also one of her pursuers. However, the previous Zhang Zan was too much a failure. Not mentioning his weak cultivation, he is also the last in all kinds of examinations. Due to his low self-esteem, even though he is interested in her, he has never talked to the goddess of his heart, needless to say, court her. This young man is called Shang Bin and he is the grandson of the academy's elder Shang. He is also one of her pursuers and he has used his identity to suppress the other pursuers. He seems to have received word from some source that Zhang Zan is also interested in Shen Bai Ru, prompting him to insult him whenever they meet, sometimes even resorting to physical violence. However, Shen Bai Ru doesn't seem to be interested in him. All along, she has been cold to everyone, as though she isn't interested in anyone else, leaving Shang Bin distressed and helpless. Who are you insulting as trash? Hearing Shang Bin's unrestrained sarcasm, Zhang Zan doesn't get angry and turns around to look over. Trash is insulting to you. Shang Bin smiles contemptuously. Oh, so, trash, is insulting to me. So smelly, so smelly. Zhang Zan waves his hand in front of his nose, putting on a disgusted expression. You. Only now does Shang Bin reacts. Being made fun of by the worst teacher in the academy, his face turns red. Emperor bloodline less than to Longxi Shui Mai. Longxi bloodline. In ancient China, they believe in looking at one's facial features to determine one's future. Naturally, there's a face for one destined for nobility as well. One of these noble faces is this Longxi face, which is usually termed as the face of an emperor. This fellow may seem plump, but he is skilled in Henglian martial arts. Chapter 13. Upon hearing those words, the ice-cold Shen Bai Ru smiles faintly. Although this roundabout manner of insulting another means nothing on earth, it is an incomparably novel concept here. Seeing the expression on his goddess, Shang Bin feels that he is being mocked. His face flushes in a moment and pales in the next. However, in front of the female goddess, he is determined to uphold decorum, thus he doesn't dare to attack Zhang Zan directly. Why? Is there something wrong with my words? Suppressing his anger, Shang Bin sneers. There isn't a single person who doesn't know what your standards are in the entire academy. This fatty came to my classroom previously. Fat like a pig, he only knows how to defend and nothing else. The strength behind his fist is only a mere 15 kilograms. He must be either the first or second from the bottom in the entrance examination, so if he isn't trash, what is he? Even though he can't teach Zhang Zan a lesson physically, he is resolute to strike a blow onto him through his words. The first from the bottom in the entrance examination? Zhang Zan only paid attention to the emperor bloodline and wasn't aware of such a situation. He turns around to look at the fatty. Who says that I am the first from the bottom? The fatty retorts confidently. Then, he scratches his head in embarrassment. I am only the 9,997th place. 9,997th place. Only? A faint spell afflicts Zhang Zan and he almost vomits blood. Hongtian Academy only accepts 10,000 students every year. Although it recruits so many people every year, there are always several students who fail to report due to several reasons. 9,997th place. It is almost as good as being in the last place, alright. Besides, with such a low ranking, how can you still be so confident? Zhang Zan feels as though he hasn't fully woken up. It can't be that you accept anyone who is a student. Shang Bin sneers once again. Then, flinging his sleeves, an arrogant look appears on his face as he declares, I have a clear requirement when accepting students. I don't accept anyone who is below the 500th in rank. The teacher who is first from the bottom and the student who is first from the bottom. How compatible. Ha ha. Are you done talking? Towards his mockery, Zhang Zan simply shakes his head. Now that you're done, you can leave. Previously, he has examined Yuan Dao clearly with the Library of Heaven's Path. That fatty is a wandering cultivator, so it is normal for him to know no cultivation technique in martial arts. As long as he finds a way to activate his emperor bloodline, his cultivation would definitely soar by leaps and bounds. If it was someone else, being mocked to such an extent, they would definitely be trembling from anger. However, this fellow doesn't even bat an eyelid to it. For Shang Bin's attack to land on thin air, his face turns even uglier. It seems that a rotten wood cannot be carved. After a cold humph, Shang Bin looks at Shen Bai Ru beside him and says, Bai Ru Lao Shi, let's go. If we stay with this kind of trash for too long, we would be contaminated by them. Hearing Shang Bin's direct sarcasm, Shen Bai Ru frowns and chooses not to leave with him. Instead, she turns around, Zhang Zan Lao Shi. Her voice is like an aureole, clear and enchanting, stirring up complex emotions in its listeners. Zhang Zan didn't expect that the academy's prettiest teacher would initiate a conversation with him. He is taken aback. Although the previous time you didn't score so well for your teacher qualification examination, do not give up on yourself. Work hard and you will find yourself rewarded in the end. Shen Bai Ru nods her head. From her point of view, Zhang Zan accepting one of the worst students means that he doesn't hold any hope and has given up on himself. Towards this ex-pursuer of hers, even if she doesn't fancy him, she doesn't hope to see him wallowing in his failures. Thank you for your advice. He knows that the other party is truly concerned for him. Zhang Zan nods his head and explains, this student, although he might not be anything now, he could turn out to be a jade. As long as I guide him properly, it isn't impossible for him to shine. Shen Bai Ru doesn't speak any further and instead starts to walk away. She thinks that Zhang Zan's explanation is only an excuse. Given Yuan Dao's size and his lack of basic knowledge at his age, there is bound to be a limit to his future achievements. Darn it! Seeing the goddess of his heart talking to the worst teacher in the academy and even motivating him, Shang Bin's face distorts savagely. The inferno in his heart rages as he stares at Zhang Zan coldly before following behind Shen Bai Ru. Bai Ru, it is better for you to avoid contact with this kind of people. It will sully your flawless disposition. Shang Laoshi, I am a little tired today and would like to rest. I hope that you do not follow me. Before Shang Bin could finish his words, Shen Bai Ru turns around to leave. Damn it, damn it. Zhang Zan, just you wait. I will definitely get back at you for this. He watches as his goddess walk further and further away before she disappears from sight. At this moment, he has already directed all of his anger towards Zhang Zan. In his opinion, if it wasn't for that inauspicious fellow, the goddess would definitely have dinner with him. How could it be possible for her to turn around to leave? Since you have acknowledged me as your teacher, you must know where my classroom is. After the both of them left, Zhang Zan turns his attention away from them and calls out to the fatty. Great! The fatty hurriedly stands up and smiles at him. Teacher, now that I am your student, can you tell me which teacher are you in the academy? Hearing his words, Zhang Zan grabs his forehead. This fellow, to think that he acknowledged whichever teacher he manages to set his eyes upon, not even clarifying Zhang Zan's identity beforehand. I am Zhang Zan. Zhang Zan says. Zhang Zan Laoshi? The Zhang Laoshi who scored first from the bottom for the teacher qualification examination, not to mention a 0. At this moment, Fatty finally realizes who he acknowledged as his teacher. The fats on his body tremble as his lip twitches. All he is lacking now is tears. That's me. Zhang Zan nods his head. Ah! That, Zhang Laoshi. Fatty scratches his head. Seeing how I am weak and dim-witted, not to mention fat, why don't you take me out from your lessons? Zhang Zan. Teacher, I am being serious over here. The two teachers from a moment ago have also said it. If you don't expel me from your tutelage, your reputation would be sullied. I am afraid of pulling you down with me. Fatty continues. I am not afraid of being pulled down. Besides, now that we have verified our relationship through the identity token, I only have a sentence for you. You will live as my student and die as my student. Stop talking about useless things here. Zhang Zan waves his hand. Fatty's face distorts and he is on the verge of crying. Due to his weakness, he wanted to acknowledge a good student so that his future could be boundless. However, never would he dream that the last place student would be paired with the last place teacher. Why is my life so difficult? Alright, this is my classroom. Now, claim your bedding and remember to come to lessons punctually tomorrow. Zhang Zan says impatiently. This classroom. Looking at the size of the classroom, Fatty finds himself on the verge of tears yet again. Even the locations where he underwent the entrance examination previously were much bigger than this. A classroom of this size probably can't hold many students. Teacher, if I don't come tomorrow, would you expel me? Fatty is still bearing illusions in his mind. Expel? That I won't. However, I will throw you into the lake which you wanted to jump into to feed the turtles. Zhang Zan nods his head seriously. Didn't I say it? You will live as my student and die as my student. Relax, I will fulfill the role of my teacher and bury you properly. Teacher. Before Zhang Zan could finish his words, he was interrupted by Fatty. With a serious face and unwavering will in his eyes, he says, What time do we start lessons tomorrow? I will come in advance to clean the classroom. It is my honor to meet such a great teacher. In the future, no matter who wants to admit me as their disciple, I will reject them firmly and reprimand them. Zhang Zan. Initially, Zhang Zan thought that he himself is shameless. However, he didn't expect that his student would be even more shameless than he is. Chapter 14. It wasn't easy for Zhang Zan arrange everything properly with Fatty and send him away. Only then did he realize that the sun is already setting in the west and it is about to turn dark soon. Looks like I only have 5 students. He shakes his head. Today is the last day to recruit students. Judging from the current time, it is probably the end of the recruitment. Initially, he thought that he wouldn't even recruit a student. He didn't expect that he would end up pulling 5 students in. For a teacher who scored the worst in the teacher qualification examination, it isn't a bad result. Closing the doors to the classroom, Zhang Zan follows the path back to his room based on his memory. As a teacher of the academy, he has a dormitory room of his own. However, it is only a small room of around a dozen meters square large. Soon, he reaches the dormitory. Pushing the door open and looking at the sight within, he couldn't help but sigh. His previous self really had it bad. Not mentioning how the room is small, it is extremely humid. Mold is growing on some of the bedding and such. He really has no idea how that fellow managed to survive like this. Let's forget about this first. Lessons are going to start tomorrow, so I have to first ascertain my level of cultivation and try training a bit. Since he isn't hungry now anyway, Zhang Zan follows the method he recalls in his memories and sits with crossed legs on the bed. As a transcender, although he has inherited the memories of his previous self and isn't foreign to cultivating, he is still quite excited at the thought of growing stronger. After he is done with the recruitment, it is about time for him to solidify his cultivation. No matter what, in this world, strength reigns supreme. The Library of Heaven's path is capable of identifying others' Mingmen and flaws, allowing him to easily break through the defenses of opponents of the same level. However, if his enemy is much stronger than he is, even if he is able to identify the gaps in their attacks, he is unable to keep up with them speed-wise. Before he could injure his opponent, he might already have been severed into multiple pieces like a lab rat. Thus, even though the Library of Heaven's path is formidable, it doesn't ensure his invincibility. If he wants to become stronger, cultivation is the way to go. The cultivation technique of my previous self is called the Hongtian 9-Dan formula. It is a skill created by the founder of Hongtian Academy. The skill consists of 9 dans, with each of the dan corresponding to the cultivation realm of the cultivator. He recalls the skill memorized in his head. There are 9 dans to a cultivator and every level opens up a new realm. The higher one climbs, the harder it is to cultivate. Hongtian 9-Dan formula is one of the most common cultivation technique in Hongtian Academy. It also consists of 9 dans which correspond to the cultivator's 9 dans. Right now, I am the weakest of all of the teachers in the academy. In the academy, almost all teachers have reached Fighter 4 Dan, leaving him to be the only 3 Dan. Thus, he has to train harder to catch up to them. Following the exhalation method in his memory, he focuses his concentration. In an instant, countless bright particles appear before him as he slowly inhales and exhales while absorbing them. Gradually, the Zhen Qi within his dantian enriches. After cultivating for an unknown period of time, Zhang Zan opens his eyes and shakes his head. This is way too slow. Even though he has inherited the memories of his previous self, his consciousness still remains that of an earthling. He finds it difficult to be sitting still to cultivate for long periods of time. Especially upon viewing the process of the gathering of Zhenqi, he feels even more helpless. Gathering Zhenqi refers to the action of pulling and gathering in the spirit particles in the air and suppressing them together. Just like the stacking of logs, they would be accumulated to form a river. This is an extremely huge project. There are some cultivators who persist in it every day without fail and fills up their dantian within 3 years to break into higher realms. It is a work that requires accumulation over time. To cultivate so blandly for multiple years? You might as well kill him. Oh, that's right. Although the Hongtian 9-Dan formula is the most popular cultivation technique in the academy, it isn't the strongest one. I can use the Library of Heaven's path to seek out its flaws and find a way to correct them. Once I correct the flaws, won't my training be much more efficient? A thought pops into his mind. There are different tiers to cultivation technique as well. Better cultivation technique allows one to cultivate faster while the weak ones cause one to cultivate at a slower pace. Could it be that the better cultivation technique has fewer flaws, causing the difference between the two? Other people might be unable to improve their cultivation technique, but Zhang Zan is different. With the Library of Heaven's path in hand, he could make use of it to seek out the flaws in it and think of a way to correct them. If he were to create a cultivation technique where even the Library of Heaven's path is unable to find a flaw in, won't his cultivation speed soar significantly? At this point, Zhang Zan stands up, places the Hongtian 9-Dan formula in his palm and starts flipping through it. Who? Just as he expected, the library in his mind jolts and a book with the exact same name appears in it. Opening the book gently, he realized that there are countless flaws on the Hongtian 9 Dan formula on it, numbering more than 1,000. This is the skill that I was training with a moment ago? Zhang Zan is shocked. Just a simple 3 Dan and there are countless flaws in it. Isn't this way too much? It is just like eating a vegetable full of worms. Zhang Zan feels that it is already incredible that his cultivation hasn't disappeared after training in that skill. What about the other cultivation techniques? As a teacher, there are quite a few books in his room. Open double angle bracket Supreme 4 inscription close double angle bracket. Open double angle bracket Heaven Meridian Technique close double angle bracket. Open double angle bracket Lotus Acupoint Breakthrough might close double angle bracket. As he casually picks each of them and flips through them, the library would automatically compile a corresponding book on it that records all kinds of flaws in the skill. For these skills, the flaws that are recorded exceeds 3,000. That is even scarier than the Hongtian 9 Dan formula. Won't I die out of exhaustion while searching for a way to correct all of those? After taking a look, Zhang Zan feels like he is about to go mad from frustration. It is hard to find a correct path when there are more than 1,000 flaws in a secret manual. It is like having 1,000 different paths before you and each of which have countless divergence to them. Even if the Library of Heaven's path is capable of ascertaining whether the path is right or not, finding the most accurate path would definitely tire him to death. Right now, my cultivation is at Fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi Pinnacle, just a little bit away from breaking through. Right now, I only have to find the flaw in the secret manual regarding this aspect and correct it. Upon seeing the countless mistakes in Hongtian 9 Dan formula, he knows that it is impossible for him to resolve them in a short period of time. Thus, he flips the manual to the very last page. It is difficult to train in the Fighter 3 Dan, but the last step to breaking through is significantly easier. As he expected, there are only 10 flaws in this page. Error in the method in sensing the spirit in the air. Error in manipulating the flow of spirit particles. Error in guiding the gathered spirit to flow through the Yangwei meridian. The 10 flaws that written here are detailed clearly. The Library of Heaven's path only records flaws, it doesn't list methods to resolving them. It isn't easy to search for the correct path one should take. Right. It seems that the parts of the Fighter 3 Dan breakthrough method in the other books have different flaws from this. A thought flashes through his mind as he recalls what is written in the other secret manuals. Thus, he flips through the other books to view the portion of it about breaking through the Zhenqi realm. It is indeed as he recalls. Although there are mistakes in those as well, their errors are in different aspects. If it isn't demarcated as an error, then it should be correct. Zhang Zan's eyes lit up. He immediately grabs pen and paper and jots down the correct portion of each of them. Soon, a new cultivation method appears before him. Let's see if there are errors in this. With a faint smile, he grabs the book that he had just written and the Library of Heaven's path jolts once more. A similar book appears, just that this time, there's only one error in it. After researching for a moment longer, he corrects this final error and uses the Library of Heaven's path to ascertain once again. Indeed, all of the errors have been filled up and it is in its perfect form. This is the most precise method to break through Fighter 3 Dan realm. Let me give it a try. Looking at the contents he wrote himself, Zhang Zan nods his head excitedly. He hurriedly gets into position and starts to cultivate. Relax my body and allow my pores to open, as though I am sinking into a tub of spirit air. Every single pore of mine is a complete life form by itself, breathing by its own will. Tease. Cultivating through this method, although he isn't very used to it at the start, it didn't take long for him to feel the spirit in the surrounding surge into him. The spirit absorbed by a single pore may not be much, but when all of the pores of a body are undergoing the same process concurrently, the absorption speed is one to behold. The spirit in the air gathers like a flowing river, forming a giant flood in his body and rushes towards his dantian. Boom! An explosion echoes from his spirit sea. Initially, he was just a step away to breaking through his bottleneck. At the current moment, Zhenqi overflows from his dantian and courses through his entire body, enriching his muscles and bones, generating a refreshing sensation. Fire 4 Dan, Pigu realm. This is too fast. Zhang Zan's eyes widen. Based on what is recorded on the Hongtian 9 Dan formula, he would need to take at least 3 to 5 months to break through, and this would still require a certain amount of luck. After slightly modifying the skill to correct the flaws on it, how long did he take in comparison? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? Probably, he didn't even take 3 minutes to successfully achieve a breakthrough. Furthermore, despite only correcting the breakthrough method for Fighter 3 Dan Pinnacle, the purity of the Zhenqi he absorbed is incomparably pure, containing much more power as compared to the ones he cultivated in the past. If the Zhenqi he cultivated in the past is sloppy mud, then this wave is a clear spring water without any impurities in it. There are also different tiers to Zhenqi: superior, intermediate and inferior. The higher the quality, the more clear it would be and the further one would be able to climb in the future. In the past, the Zhenqi he cultivates is murky and probably of inferior quality. The ones he are cultivating is so clear that you could see through it. Most probably, it is Zhenqi of superior quality. Didn't they say that, if one wants to cultivate superior Zhenqi, they would require a god or saint cultivation technique? There are different tiers to a cultivation technique as well, namely god, saint, spirit, phantom and mortal. In each tier, they are classified further into inferior, intermediate, superior and pinnacle. Based on rumors among cultivators, one would need at least a saint cultivation technique in order to cultivate superior Zhenqi. Hongtian 9 Dan formula is the lowest mortal cultivation technique, so how could it cultivate Zhenqi of such quality? It is the library of heaven's path. Zhang Zan clenches his fist. He is still cultivating the Hongtian 9 Dan formula, but as he managed to avoid the mistakes recorded on it and followed the correct path upwards, he is able to gather superior Zhenqi. It seems that what is recorded on the library of heaven's path is accurate. The Hongtian 9 Dan formula is indeed too far from perfection. If so, with the help of the library of heaven's path, could it be possible for me to create a book of saint or even god cultivation technique? Zhang Zan's eyes twinkle. Chapter 15. Needless to say, Hongtian Academy, even those top sects might not even have god or saint cultivation technique. Besides, even they have it, it is hidden deep inside the sect and normal people would be unable to obtain it. What he wants to do is to create such a skill so that his training would be more efficient so as to hasten the rate of the rise of his cultivation by leaps and bounds. I don't have any 4 Dan cultivation method. Let me go to the teacher compendium pavilion to take a look. Practicing the Hongtian 9 Dan formula, the cultivator can only retrieve the secret manual for the next realm after breaking through their current realm. At this moment, he only has the cultivation method for 3 Dan. He has yet to see the one for 4 Dan. Walking out, the sun hasn't set for too long and there are still quite a few passers-by on the road. The bright moonlight reflects on the surface of the pavement, dyeing it with a layer of silver. A few couples who had just tasted the forbidden fruit are snuggling under the tree as they whisper sweet nothings to one another. Even so, the surroundings have a serene atmosphere. Zhang Zan didn't bother himself with these. Instead, he hastens his footsteps and soon, a giant pavilion appears before him. The compendium pavilion is split into 2 main sectors, teacher and student. Within it lies the compendium of all kinds of secret manuals and cultivation techniques. It is one of the most important locations in the entire academy. Elder Mo. Walking to the entrance, he bows to an elderly who is sitting at a proximity from the great door. Elder Mo is one of the guardians of the compendium pavilion. It is unknown what realm he has reached, but it is said that he is ranked among the top in the academy in terms of his strength. However, as he hasn't fought for many years, no one could tell his actual strength for sure. You're here. You have reached Fighter 4 Dan? Elder Mo looks over and strokes his sparse beard. It is just luck. Zhang Zan doesn't try to conceal the fact that he has reached Fighter 4 Dan. Good, good. Train harder, the academy still needs young blood like you. Elder Mo nods his head in satisfaction. Yes. Zhang Zan doesn't continue speaking and instead lifts his leg to walk into the room. The moment he leaves, Elder Mo shakes his head and laments, he is a good child, just that he is lacking a little in talent and is slightly too slow in his cultivation. Other cultivators take around 2 years to break through Fighter 3 Dan, whereas Zhang Zan took a whole 3 years to do so. His talent is indeed subpar. Upon reaching Fighter 4 Dan, if he were to train properly, he should still be able to become an average teacher. Just that, I hope he doesn't score too badly for him teacher qualification examination the next time. After muttering for a bit, Elder Mo doesn't go on any further and shuts his eyes once more. Zhang Zan is one of the more polite ones among the numerous young teachers. He doesn't really like him, but neither does he dislike him. It is just that he finds it lamentable for him to be lacking in talent. Oblivious to the mutterings of Elder Mo, Zhang Zan walks into the Compendium Pavilion. Although the Hongtian Academy's Compendium Pavilion is of significant size, nowhere paling in comparison to the working location of his previous life, it is still much smaller than the Library of Heaven's Path in his mind. The two aren't even on the same level. He walks quickly to the cultivation technique section and to the 4th row of it. Indeed, the Hongtian 9 Dan Formula 4 Dan cultivation technique is in here. Reaching out to grab it, he casually flips through it. Who? A similar secret manual appears in his mind. Taking a look, it is around the same as the one for 3 Dan. There are more than 1,000 flaws. There are other secret manuals here as well. Let me take a look at them as well. After the prior experience with breaking through, Zhang Zan doesn't focus on the flaws in it and instead looks towards the bookshelf before him. On the bookshelf of the 4th row, there is an amazing amount of different kinds of cultivation technique manuals. They are all cultivation techniques for 4 Dan, and there is quite a plenty of notes and explanations in them left behind by predecessors. Just by a rough look, there are around a few thousand of them. If it is someone else, their eyes would definitely blur from the sight. After all, there are so many books with countless notes left in them. Furthermore, some of the theories for the cultivation techniques are at ends with each other, so it is hard to gauge whether which one is the right one. If one were to randomly cultivate without knowing better, it is possible for them to go berserk. However, Zhang Zan is different. Possessing the Library of Heaven's Path, he is capable of telling which one is the right one. He doesn't hesitate to grab a book and flip through it. Who? A similar book appears in his mind. Zhang Zan doesn't stop and picks up the next one. He isn't browsing through them nor picking them. Rather, he is trying to increase the number of books in the Library of Heaven's Path so that he could derive a more precise cultivation method. Hoolah! The sound of flipping pages fills the entire room. A weak will. Impatient and unrealistic. Hearing those words, Elder Mo frowns. Since Zhang Zan has already chosen to cultivate in the Hongtian 9 Dan formula, then he shouldn't think about any other skills. He should make use of the time to copy the formula for the 4 Dan so that he can analyze it and start training. Although it is possible to make use the strengths of others to make up for the flaws of one, the more miscellaneous knowledge one reads, the easier it is for one to get impatient and rash. In the end, it is a small thing if he achieves nothing in the end. If things go wrong, it is very possible for him to go berserk and ruin his cultivation. 30 years ago, a talented genius blessed with great talents who thought he is much greater than others insisted on looking through the various cultivation techniques to create an ultimate one tailored to him. In the end, due to reading too many manuals, he became uncertain of the route he should walk on and his cultivation went berserk. As an individual, he became insane as well. Being greedy would cause indigestion. This is the absolute truth and reality. For him to take 3 years to break through Zhenqi realm, his talent is apparent. With such talent, he should just obediently cultivate 4 dan of Hongtian 9 dan formula. Yet, he chooses to flip through other manuals. Is he just trying to seek for something thrilling? With one look, one could tell he is an unrealistic fellow. The good impression that he holds towards Zhang Zan disappears without a trace. Putting on a show just to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. After a cold harumph, he realizes that Zhang Zan is just casually flipping through without taking a careful look at them. Elder Mo's eyebrows knit even closer together and he feels a little disgusted with him. If one were to study those manual closer, even though they are being unrealistic, they would still obtain some knowledge on them. However, this fellow simply casually flips through it, and given the speed he flips at, even Elder Mo himself is unable to look through the contents properly. If so, what can a lad who had just reached Fighter 4 Dan see? Now, he is truly putting on a show to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. The Academy's culture is really degenerating, getting worse with each passing generation. After those words, he shuts his eyes, refusing to bother with this unrealistic fellow anymore. I'm done. His pace of browsing is extremely fast. He is able to finish flipping through a normal manual in just 1 or 2 breaths. In 2 hours, he finished browsing through all of the cultivation manuals, and thousands of identical books had appeared in the Library of Heaven's Path. Time to return to assess them. Knowing that his aim has been achieved, he smiles and walks towards the outside without hesitation. You aren't going to copy any notes? Seeing him leaving empty-handed, Elder Mo couldn't resist asking. Even if he is unrealistic, he should at least copy the secret manual so that he can analyze it after returning to his living quarters. Coming and leaving empty-handed, are you coming here to play?
It's okay. I am actually just taking a casual look.
Unsure about what the other party is thinking about, Zhang Zan smiles and takes his leave. Taking a casual look? Frivolous. The Academy should punish this fellow. How can such a frivolous person be a teacher? Elder Mo waves his hand in anger. Cultivation manuals are the core of every cultivator, and every cultivator should hold some respect towards them. However, this fellow only came to take a look and returns back after casually flipping through them. His behavior is unacceptable.
Looks like he should have a talk with the principal to deal with these teachers who are sullying the culture of the Academy.
Returning back to his living quarters, Zhang Zan takes out pen and papers and flips through the Hongtian 9 Dan Formula 4 Dan manual to copy down the correct portions of it. Then, he takes out another book and copies down the correct portions as well. After flipping through a few of them, Zhang Zan rubs his temples. It is actually quite troublesome and tiring to flip through a few thousand books like that. It isn't as simple as he thought it would be. Just when he is thinking about how he could hasten his pace, his mind suddenly jolts again. The thousands of books that was just compiled in the Library of Heaven's Path crumple and slowly merge as one. Wang! The few thousand books merge together completely with a crisp sound to form a single book. There isn't any name on the book. Zhang Zan casually flips through it. This is the compilation of the correct routes in the few thousand secret manuals? After taking a look at it, Zhang Zan's face flushes red from excitement. Previously, he was still troubled by how he could find the correct route out of a few thousand of books.
It would have been an arduous task, taking a long period of time.
Never in his dreams would he expect that the library would compile it automatically. This book, there isn't a single flaw in it. The nameless book is the compilation of all of the correct cultivation route, and there isn't a single flaw in it. The contents of it is no longer Hongtian 9 Dan formula or any one of the individual manual that was compiled into it. It could be said to be something no one has ever seen before. Since it is the correct method chosen and compiled by the Library of Heaven's Path, let's call it Heaven's Path Divine Art. A thought flashes through his mind and he decides on the name of the nameless manual.
Wang?
As though sensing his thoughts, the empty cover trembles and 4 words appear on it. Heaven's Path Divine Art. Chapter 16. Let me give it a try. After obtaining a cultivation technique without any flaws, Zhang Zan doesn't hesitate to follow the method recorded in the Heaven's Path Divine Art and starts to meditate. The pores on his body widens as he absorbs spirit energy from the air into his body. Fighter 4 Dan. 1 Dan Juxi, 2 Dan Dantian, 3 Dan Zhenqi, 4 Dan Pigu.
Juxi realm. Cultivators would learn innate breathing and sensing of spirit in the air.
Also, they would gain the ability to look into their body and control the flow of spirit energy in their body with their mind. Dantian realm. The opening up of a cultivator's dantian to allow it to hold spirit energy as well as to reform his body, turning a normal human into a true fighter. Zhenqi realm. The gathering of the spirit energy in the dantian to create zhenqi.
Pigu realm. The zhenqi-filled dantian will overflow and enrich one's body, causing the cultivator's physical body to become powerful. The capabilities of their organs will also be strengthened, thus turning them into true experts. The first 3 dans of a fighter are the building of foundations. Only at the 4 dan does the result of one's cultivation truly reflects on one's body, causing one to stray away from illnesses and become stronger. The cultivation method of Hongtian 9 Dan manual is to make use of the zhenqi overflowing from the dantian to nourish one's body, thus reforming and tempering one's bones, muscles, tendons and skin. However, the Heaven's Path Divine Art is different. It uses the spirit energy from the surrounding to nourish one's body while having the zhenqi in one's body overflow to the other parts of the body at the same time. Gu 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 gu. The stream of spirit energy flows through his veins towards his entire body. The zhenqi would mend and fill up the incomplete parts as it flows through his veins. Geji. Geji. It didn't take long for the infusion of both spirit energy and zhenqi to strengthen his bones and muscles. It feels as though it has been tempered with concentrated fire as it turns clear, emitting a warm glow. Boom! After the zhenqi circulates around his body for an unknown number of times, his body suddenly jolts and he feels as though he has broken through a certain bottleneck. A surge of relaxation gushes through his body. Previously, his body feels as though it has been bound by some shackles, but now, his entire body feels light and he has perfect control over every single motion of his. It feels as though he has been broken through his cocoon to be reborn as a butterfly. Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm. I have finished cultivating in this realm? Opening his eyes, Zhang Zan is still in a state of disbelief. The sign of breaking through the Pigu realm is the destruction of the shackles of one's body, allowing one to ascend into greater heights. How long has he been training? 2 hours? 4 hours? Pungent. Curious, he looks at his body and realizes that there is a layer of filth on the surface of his skin. Pigu realm is the nourishment of one's body using zhenqi, expelling the impurities within one's body and cleansing one's muscles and bones, thus reforming their body. From birth, humans would ingest all kinds of food for survival. As a result, they would accumulate more and more impurities in their body. In the Pigu realm, through the nourishment of zhenqi, one cleanses their body of impurities and only then are they able to break through the shackles of their body and return back to nature. I have long heard of the Pigu realm, but I have never seen anyone who can expel so much impurities. Smelling the pungent smell from his body, Zhang Zan couldn't take it anymore. He grabs a pail and cleans himself while muttering under his breath. Fire 4 Dan Pigu realm is the cleansing of one's muscles and bones. It is already not bad for one to strengthen their body just by a small bit in one sitting. He has never heard of a person expelling so much impurities that their entire body would stink from it. Very quickly, he finished cleaning himself. At this moment, Zhang Zan suddenly realizes that his body is as clear as a jade and as smooth as a mirror. All of the scars which he accumulated from his previous training sessions have disappeared without a trace. Right now, he is just like a newborn infant, perhaps even smoother than a newborn infant. My zhenqi. Surprised by the changes in his body, his attention turns to his dantian.
His entire body trembles. The murky zhenqi that was in his dantian previously has turned to become as clear and water, and it is emitting refreshing fragrance. Without a doubt, it is definitely superior zhenqi. Not only is my body enhanced, even the quality of my zhenqi has improved. This heaven's path divine art is too powerful. Zhang Zan is taken aback. To break through Pigu realm, others have to continually nourish their body for at least a few years. However, he took less than 4 hours to break through the realm directly. Not only so, the quality of his zhenqi has been refined. Exactly what kind of secret manual has the Library of Heaven's Path created? This is way too powerful. Let me test my strength. Upon breaking through Pigu realm, one would reach Fighter 5 Dan Dingli. The moment a cultivator steps into this realm, they will possess 1 ding of strength. He walks over to the strength measuring rock pillar, which is just a few dozen meters away from the dormitory. This kind of strength measuring rock pillar can be found around the academy so as to allow the students to measure their strength at any time and anywhere. Upon reaching Fighter 5 Dan Dingli, one would possess 1 ding of strength, which is around 1,000 kilograms.
This kind of strength already exceeds the limits of an ordinary human and is on par with horses and bulls.
After practicing the Heaven's Path divine art, Zhang Zan's body has been reformed and he has broken through the Pigu realm. This is an opportunity for him to test how much strength it possesses.
Will it be like in the rumors, that he would possess 1 ding of strength?
Gathering and controlling his breath, the sole of the feet clutches onto the ground. Suddenly, his knees spring forth and his entire body immediately takes on the shape of a giant bow while his arm bursts forth from him like an arrow. Pong! His fist strikes on the stone pillar and a glint of light flow on it. 5 ding. A number appears on it. How is this possible? Zhang Zan narrows his eyes and a dumbfounded look covers his entire face. Is this for real? For a normal Dingli primary stage, one would possess 1 ding of strength. In the intermediate stage, one would possess 2 ding of strength. In the advanced stage, 3 ding of strength, and in the pinnacle, 4 ding of strength. Yet, despite barely breaking through the Pigu realm to Dingli realm, he actually possesses 5 ding of strength. What is going on? Isn't this too exaggerated? It must be due to the nourishment of my body by the Heaven's Path divine art and the superior zhenqi in my body. After a short moment, Zhang Zan recovers from the shock and infers. He is very clear that he isn't a genius. The only explanation for it is the Heaven's Path divine art which he has just cultivated with. Not only does this cultivation technique temper and reforms his physical body and cleanses his zhenqi, raising it to superior quality, it also increases his strength significantly, thus granting him the strength beyond that of Dingli pinnacle expert despite just reaching the Dingli realm.
Fearsome.
There is only a few esteemed teacher in the academy who reached Fighter 5 Dan. In the academy, only some of the higher level teachers possess the strength of a Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm.
People like Cao Shang and him could never hope to reach such heights. Now that I have reached this level, I should go and look for the cultivation technique for 5 Dan.
While his strength soars rapidly, a problem arises. The multitude of 4 Dan cultivation techniques that he flipped through in the Teacher Compendium Pavilion previously are useless now. If he wants to continue cultivating, he has to look for 5 Dan cultivation techniques. Right now, it isn't too late. The Teacher Compendium Pavilion shouldn't be closed yet. Scratching his head, Zhang Zan walks over the Compendium Pavilion once more. In order to prevent people from getting greedy and hasty in their training, the Academy imposed a rule that one can only view cultivation techniques that correspond to the level of their cultivation. It didn't take long for Zhang Zan to arrive at the Compendium Pavilion once more. "Why are you here again?" Seeing that it's the same guy from a moment ago, the custodian, Elder Mo, frowns. This impractical fellow just left the pavilion not long ago. Why is he back again? Elder Mo, I would like to view the cultivation technique for 5 Dan. Zhang Zan is a little awkward. He can't possibly say that he broke through after leaving for just a short moment. If he were to say that, the other fellow would either kill him or kidnap him to examine him like a lab rat. There isn't much of a change in Zhenqi between Pigu realm and Dingli realm. As long he doesn't manipulate his Zhenqi, it is difficult for even experts to tell the difference. Elder Mo may be strong, but it is inconceivable to him that this youth might have broken to greater heights in the short moment he was gone. 5-Dan cultivation technique? What do you want it for? Elder Mo's face darkens. His final sliver of appreciation towards his fellow disappears. He didn't copy any notes on the 4-Dan cultivation technique and didn't try to cultivate it. Yet, he is back now to look at the 5-Dan? What kind of joke is this? Elder Mo, it is like this. Today, I accepted a student and his parent asked me some questions about 5-Dan cultivation. I was unable to answer it, causing him to look down on him. Thus, I would like to take a look and derive an answer to it. This way, I would be able to deal with these questions in the future. Zhang Zan has already thought of an excuse beforehand. Some parents are indeed troublesome to deal with. Hearing this explanation, Elder Mo nods his head. With a solemn expression, he says, "You can take a look, but do not cultivate them by any means. If you try to cultivate 5-Dan without even breaking through 4-Dan, even deities would be unable to save you when you go berserk." "Yes, I understand that." Zhang Zan hurriedly replies.
"All right, enter."
Elder Mo waves his hand and closes his eyes. The 5-Dan cultivation technique are on the very last row.
"Yes."
Zhang Zan hurriedly enters.
Hypocritical. Vain.
After entering, Elder Mo adds 2 more words to his evaluation of Zhang Zan. Chapter 17. So what if the parents ask about it? You are the lowest level teacher, it is normal that you can't answer their questions. So, in order to put on a show, you specially came here to view the 5-Dan cultivation technique. If this isn't being hypocritical and vain, what is it? Tomorrow, I will look for the principal and have this unrealistic fellow expelled. Scoffing coldly in his heart, old Mo's mind is resolute. Leaving such a vain fellow who doesn't cultivate properly in the academy will just sully the culture of the academy. Zhang Zan doesn't know that the 2 meetings with Elder Mo have placed him in the expulsion list of the latter. If he were to know, he would have no idea whether he should burst into laughter or weep in tears. Those words that he said are only excuses. In reality, his cultivation has reached such a level. He can't possibly stop training due to the lack of cultivation technique. Very quickly, he found the very last row of the cultivation technique section. Even the most famous and powerful teacher in the academy is Fighter 5-Dan. The moment one breaks through into the 6-Dan Pishui realm, they would automatically become an elder in the academy. This is only the teacher compendium pavilion, so there aren't any records on the 6-Dan cultivation techniques. Thus, the 5-Dan cultivation techniques are placed on the very last shelf. There are significantly less 5-Dan manuals than 4-Dan. There are around 2,000 to 3,000 cultivation technique secret manuals on the 4-Dan, whereas there are only 1,000 on the 5-Dan. However, it is also a natural occurrence when one thinks about it. No matter what it is, the higher one climbs, the scarcer the resources.
Although the academy has been present for a long time, there are definitely significantly less 5-Dan than 4-Dan in its entire history.
As a result, the cultivation techniques and notes they leave behind would be fewer as well. Shaking his head, he decided not to contemplate over such matters. Zhang Zan casually takes out a book and flipped through it. Around an hour later, the 1,000 cultivation techniques secret manuals have been browsed through and the Library of Heaven's Path has compiled corresponding books to the secret manuals. After receiving what he wants, Zhang Zan smiles faintly and bids Elder Mo farewell before walking into the distance. Seeing how he is randomly flipping and viewing the books, not even stopping in the midst of it, Elder Mo can't help but chastise him yet again in his mind. Returning back to his living quarters, Zhang Zan follows what he did previously and searches for the correct phrases and paragraphs within the 1,000 books. As he expected, not too long later, the library compiles the 1,000 books into a single one. This time, the book isn't nameless and the 4 big words open double angle bracket Heaven's Path Divine Art close double angle bracket is written on it. He starts to cultivate again. Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm is an extension of the Pigu realm. The purpose of this realm is simple. It is to temper the zhenqi of the cultivator to his body. The difference in strength between each stage in Dingli realm is mainly due to the level of compatibility between one's zhenqi and their body. The greater their compatibility, the more strength one is able to exert. Reading the cultivation method for the Dingli realm in the Heaven's Path Divine Art, Zhang Zan focuses his attention. He carefully controls the crystal-clear zhenqi in his dantian to slowly flow in his body, going at a fixed rhythm to allow it to merge completely with his body. The Heaven's Path Divine Art is indeed worthy of being a cultivation technique compiled by the advantages of over a few thousand secret manuals. The efficiency of the cultivation method is indeed one to behold. His zhenqi and muscles swiftly merge together as one. The strength of his body and the compatibility of his zhenqi soars up exponentially. Dingli Realm Primary Stage. Dingli Realm Intermediate Stage. Dingli Realm Advanced Stage. Dingli Realm Pinnacle. Boom! After 4 hours, his body jolts again. Zhang Zan reopens his eyes.
His eyes are filled with disbelief. This Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle?
Initially, he thought he would take a long period cultivating in 5 Dan. Never in his dreams would he possibly imagine that he could reach the pinnacle in 4 hours through the Heaven's Path Divine Art. To his previous self, cultivation is as difficult as trying to ascend the heavens. Yet, to Zhang Zan who is practicing the Heaven's Path Divine Art, it is as easy as eating and drinking. Just by half a night worth of effort, he rose from Fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm to Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm pinnacle. This is too exaggerated. Furthermore, if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't know the cultivation method for 6 Dan, unaware of which acupoint he should break through, he might have already successfully broken through to become a 6 Dan Pishui realm expert. In 6 Dan Pishui realm, one opens up all of the blocked acupoints in their body. For every acupoint broken through, one's zhenqi would become richer and one's prowess will rise. It is said that there are 108 acupoints in the human body. However, only 72 of these can be opened and there is an order to opening it. Everyone's body is different, thus everyone would require a different sequence in breaking through each of them to obtain the best results out of it. If one is unable to find the correct sequence, they could very possibly end up only opening 3 to 4 acupoints and be stuck there for the rest of their lives. This is just like cleaning the silt by a river. It has to be cleaned gradually from the upper stream to the lower stream. If one were to start at the center and clean towards the upper and lower stream, not only will the river not be cleaned thoroughly, it might even result in a blockage, causing one to be unable to progress further. The same logic goes for breaking through one's acupoints as well. If one doesn't find the ideal sequence, the other acupoints might get blocked and for the rest of their lives, they would be unable to open it. Thus, without a cultivation technique, Zhang Zan doesn't dare to try to cultivate further. However, he isn't anxious. It is already unheard of to break through 2 great realms in a single night. He is already very satisfied with the results. Unless required, it is best for me not to reveal my level of cultivation. As a transcender, he has read many books and watched many shows. He knows that possessing a treasure itself is a crime. He is the worst teacher in the entire academy. Yet, in a night, he suddenly gains the strength of a Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle. If others were to find out, won't they all rush to him? Thus, it is best for him to not tell anyone about him reaching Dingli Realm Pinnacle. The more confidential it is, the better it is for him. Let me see how much strength would I hold this time. After making a decision, Zhang Zan walks over to the strength measuring rock pillar. While other people only possess 1 ding of strength in their dingli primary stage, he possessed 5 ding. If so, how much strength would he hold now that he has reached the pinnacle?
Pung. Light flows through the rock pillar and numbers appear on it. 8 ding.
8 ding of strength? That is almost the strength of a Pishui realm expert who has opened up 4 acupoints.
Zhang Zan's eyes lit up.
A normal dingli pinnacle cultivator would possess 4 ding of strength. After which, for each acupoint they break through, their strength would increase by 1 ding. Despite just being at dingli pinnacle, he possesses the strength of 8 ding, putting him on the same level as an expert who has broken through 4 acupoints. As expected of the Heaven's Path divine art, incredible. Zhang Zan is quite happy. After training for such a long period of time, he intends to find something to eat then go to sleep. However, his ears suddenly twitch. Why would someone be here at such a time? Zhang Zan frowns. Due to an advancement in his cultivation, his hearing and sight have improved tremendously. He is able to clearly perceive the sound of someone hiding somewhere not too far from where he is, staring fixedly at his living quarters.
Looks like he is surveying my room. He probably has yet to detect my presence.
At this moment, Zhang Zan isn't at his room but behind a strength-measuring rock pillar which is a distance away from the dormitory. After measuring his strength, he has been suppressing his breathing, thus the other party has yet to notice his presence.
Let's see who's the one finding trouble with me.
He didn't expect that someone would want to deal with him right after he is done cultivating. The doubts in his mind grow. Rummaging through the memories of his previous self, although he doesn't have much accomplishment, there hasn't been a scenario where someone sneaked onto in the night to deal with him. No matter who he is, I mustn't let him identify me. Just when he was about to meet the other party, a thought suddenly flashes through his mind. The entire academy knows that he is a fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm trash. If he were to appear at this moment as a 5 Dan pinnacle, the other party would definitely be scared to death. Furthermore, if the news were to spread out, there would surely be quite a few person who would look into him. Thus, no matter who the other party is, Zhang Zan mustn't allow him to identify him. At this moment, he suddenly recalls the numerous movies he has watched back in his previous life. Thus, he tears away a fabric from his sleeves and covers his face.
Who?
After finishing with his preparations, making use of the darkness of the night, Zhang Zan gradually creeps towards the other party with light footsteps. Although he has just broken through and he has never studied any footwork, the cultivation technique he is training with is the Heaven's Path divine art which grants him superb control over his body. Not to mention, he is also very familiar with his surroundings, so the other party didn't notice him even when he is just 10 meters behind him. At such a proximity, he could clearly see the black suit donned by the other party. His face is also covered, so it is impossible for him to make out his identity as well. Lad, if you must blame it for your daring guts to dare to lay your hands on our young mistress. Hiding behind a large tree, Zhang Zan stares at the silhouette before him as the mutterings of the latter vaguely drift to his ears. That voice sounds familiar. Zhang Zan's eyebrows knit tightly together. Zhang Zan is sure that he had heard this voice before. However, he has difficulty recalling exactly when and where he heard it.
Who?
Just as he is trying his best to recall whether it is the memory of his previous self or after he has transcended, the silhouette before him flickers and gradually moves towards his dormitory. At the same time, with a flick of his wrist, a cold gleam shines and a sharp dagger appears on his palm. Chapter 18, You Want to Kill Me?
Seeing the other party whipping out a knife, Zhang Zan raises his eyebrows.
It is fortunate that he has been cultivating and not sleeping. Otherwise, when the other party approaches him silently like this, won't he be killed for sure? Let me first ascertain who this fellow is. Zhang Zan knows that conducting this kind of night assault would mean that he is not an individual.
Perhaps, there could even be an organization behind him.
If he doesn't accurately identify the one trying to murder him, even if he were to kill this assassin, there might be more coming for his life in the future. If he doesn't dig out the organization behind the assassination, he wouldn't have to dream of sleeping peacefully anymore. Who is it? Just when Zhang Zan is pondering how he should force the man before him to confess the organization backing him, he hears a hushed voice. Unknowingly, the black-clothed man grasping the dagger is already standing at proximity to him. Zhang Zan has never tracked anyone before. Upon seeing the other party whip out a dagger, he got nervous for a moment and leaked out his breath, causing the other party to notice his presence. To be noticed so quickly, Zhang Zan frowns. Just when he is about to rush forward to duel with the man before him, a thought flashed through his mind and a brilliant idea pops out. I am here to kill Zhang Zan, that useless teacher. Who are you? Suppressing his tone so as to not be identified, Zhang Zan declares. Since the other party is here to kill him, he would be able to confuse him by saying that he is here for the same purpose. You're here to kill him? The black-clothed man is taken aback. However, looking at how Zhang Zan conceals his face and his sneaky attitude, he couldn't help but trust his words slightly. Indeed. The academy's worst teacher will only bring harm to the students if left alone. Zhang Zan couldn't help but turn red upon talking about himself. Oh, then you do it. I will help you keep a lookout. The black-clothed man says. Kang? An uncomprehending look appears on Zhang Zan. He tries to push the responsibility to him. I think it would be better for you to do it. Anyway, we are here for the same motive, so it doesn't matter who does it. You do it. Actually, I have no intentions of killing him. I only wanted to punish him. However, if he were to die, that would be for the best. The black-clothed man urges him on. Punish him? Zhang Zan is a little confused. Punish him? Then why is he holding a dagger? He couldn't resist asking, how do you want to punish him? HMPH, that fellow dares to do something disrespectful to our young mistress.
I intend to chop off his thing and turn him into a eunuch.
The black-clothed man proclaims furiously. Hearing those words filled with vile intentions, Zhang Zan could only feel a breeze at his crotch and shivered unconsciously in fear. The hell? If I were to sleep peacefully tonight, I would probably be qualified to serve the emperor after this. ****. Who the hell are you, for you to be so vicious? Disrespectful to your young mistress? Zhang Zan tries to recall the memories of his previous self and after his reincarnation, but he doesn't seem to have gotten into any physical relationships with any young mistresses. That Zhang Zan, I have only heard that he is unqualified as a teacher. I have never heard of him bullying females. What is this about? Zhang Zan couldn't resist asking. HMPH, that fellow is an animal with a human skin. What teacher? He is a beast. Our young mistress. Forget it. The more I think about it, the more furious I get.
Untold rage could be felt from the suppressed voice of the black-clothed man.
Zhang Zan could only see stars. So what the hell is it about, for you to insult me as a beast?
What did I do to your young mistress?
Besides that, who the hell is your young mistress? It is one thing if she is pretty, but if she is ugly, isn't it too much for such a reputation to be forced on me? Why do you want to kill him? After his insults, the black-clothed man looks over. Me? Zhang Zan didn't expect that the other party would question him. He is stunned for a moment before clenching his jaw and answering, I
can't accept his actions of bullying women.
You know that he bullies women? Who did he bully? The black-clothed man is alarmed. He. Zhang Zan haramphs and says, there is no reason for me to answer your questions. That is true. Since we both have the same goals in mind, you go first. Seeing that the other party is unwilling to reveal anything, although there are doubts in his mind, he chooses to ask no further and waves his hand to gesture Zhang Zan to go ahead. It would be better if you go first. If I were to strike first, he would be dead before you can castrate him.
It would be better for you to castrate him first before I kill him."
Zhang Zan replies. "That?" The black-clothed man starts to hesitate. He looks at Zhang Zan in doubt. He has started to get suspicious. How could it be possible for such a coincidence to occur? Just when he intends to castrate Zhang Zan, another person appears to assassinate him? If it wasn't for his fear of the strength of the other party, he would have struck him unconscious by now. Why? You don't trust me? If I don't want to kill him, why would I sneak here in the middle of the night? Noticing his doubts, Zhang Zan tries to dispel them. Hearing those words, the black-clothed man hesitates for a moment before nodding his head in agreement. That's true. It is already late at night. If the masked man isn't here to kill Zhang Zan, why would he be here for? It isn't because I don't trust you. Since our goals align with one another, let's go together. The black-clothed man replies after pondering for a moment. He is still a little suspicious of the fellow in front of him. You are still way too careful. Rest easy, I have basic principles as a human. However, since you do not trust me. Zhang Zan doesn't drag on the conversation and gestures, let's go together. After which, he charges forward. Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle? Seeing his movement, the black-clothed man instantly identifies his level of cultivation. He exerts his qinggong and follows closely behind. Seeing the black-clothed man following behind him, Zhang Zan immediately turns around to take a look. Boom! The Library of Heaven's path jolts and a book appears. The skill the other party exerted to follow him is equal to executing a battle technique. As long as one were to use a skill, the Library of Heaven's path would be able to compile a book on his flaws and thus, his background would be revealed. Zhang Zan glances at the book. He only sees 2 words, Yao Han, written on the cover. This name sounds so familiar. Where have I heard of it? Zhang Zan stares at the front cover for a moment before flipping over to the first page. Yao Han, the butler of Baiyu City Lord Residence. Fighter 6 Dan Pishui Primary Stage, 8 acupoints opened. It's him? Seeing the words Baiyu City, Zhang Zan immediately recalls the identity of the man before him. Isn't this the butler from Baiyu City who rushed over to threaten him when he accepted Zhao Ya as his student? No wonder his voice and name sound so familiar. Just that. This means that the young mistress that he mentioned refers to Zhao Ya. What did I do to her for you to make the journey here just to castrate me? To dare to malign me? Even though you are stronger than me, I must teach you a lesson. The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets. If it is something his previous self did, since he has transcended over to take his place, even though he would feel wronged, he would admit it. However, the crux is that he didn't do anything. For Yao Han to label him with this crime when he did nothing, he is simply too vile. As such thoughts race through his mind, he continues to glance through the list. Cultivation technique. White jade circulation technique. Battle techniques. Mystical diagram palm, expert. Mystical diagram fist, expert. Flaws, 16 aspects. Number 1. His Mingmen is at his bottoms and his skills are unable to guard against attacks directed at the point. Number 2. Number 3. Just as how it did previously, the book records all the flaws on this fellow. Having broken through 8 acupoints, this means his current strength is at 12 ding. If Zhang Zan were to try to match him in a direct combat, he would definitely not be a match for him. However, so what if you were in Pishui realm? So what if you possess 12 ding of strength? If I don't teach you a lesson today, I wouldn't be called Zhang Zan. Who? At this point, Zhang Zan stops abruptly. What's wrong? Seeing Zhang Zan stopping abruptly, the black-clothed man asks with a confused look. Look, an UFO. Zhang Zan casually points. UFO? What is an UFO? The black-clothed man is taken aback and hurriedly turns around to take a look. This action reveals the Mingmen on his bottom to Zhang Zan. Incomprehension plagues Yao Han. He knows of butterfly, ultimatum and spy. However, what exactly is an UFO? Butterfly to Hu Dai. Ultimatum to Tong Dai. Spy to Jian Dai. UFO, flying saucer, to Fei Dai. Dai is pronounced as Di Ye.
Go to hell. What Zhang Zan has been waiting for is this opportunity.
Without any hesitation whatsoever, he sends a kick filled with his wrath towards his bottom. Pung! Before the black-clothed man Yao Han could react, his Mingmen is kicked on. He flies forward and crashes head-on with a boulder not too far away. Blood trickles down from the wound on his head. Since you are here to castrate me, should I castrate you right now? The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets. Zhang Zan rushes forward and sits on the other party's body.
He sends a couple of fists onto his face.
What Pishui realm expert, what 12 Ding expert? They are strong? If you were to find their Mingmen and exploit their flaws, an unexpected assault will still lead to their deaths.
You.
Apparently, Yao Han didn't expect the fellow who wanted to teach Zhang Zan a lesson along with him would suddenly attack him frenziedly. What's worse, his Mingmen is struck, causing his entire body to go stiff. He couldn't retaliate even if he wanted to. His body shivers from anger. Didn't we agree to deal with Zhang Zan together? The heck? Where is your trust? Where are your basic principles as a human? Besides, no matter what, you are a Fighter 5 Dan Dingli Pinnacle Master, an expert among experts.
You should have some demeanor even in the midst of a battle.
To shamelessly lie to me and launch a secret assault before riding on my face. What about battle techniques? What about crossing blows? What about your cultivation technique? Even gangsters on the street don't fight this way. He only feels wave after wave of pain on his face. Yao Han is about to go insane. At this moment, he finally knows that he have been scammed by the masked man. Furthermore, it is the worst kind of scams. Qigong literally translated as the art of lightweight. It refers to footwork which allows one to tread lightly, increasing one's jumping ability, running speed and dodging skills. Chapter 19. After a violent thrashing, Zhang Zan finally feels the rage in his heart subsiding slightly. Lowering his head to take a look, Yao Han's mask has already fallen off in the midst of the bashing and his face is warped from taking his hits. Probably, even his own mother would be unable to recognize him in his current state. Keng. Now that anger is no longer clouding his mind, Zhang Zan immediately grasps his current situation.
This fellow is the butler of Baiyu City Lord, as well as the uncle of my disciple.
It is still okay for me to teach him a lesson, but I should not kill him by any means. No matter what, this fellow is still Zhao Ya's Uncle Yao. If Zhang Zan were to really kill him, won't the disciple he just admitted go to waste? There would surely be zero possibility for reconciliation if that were to happen. Besides, Baiyu City is reputed as the third biggest city in Tianquan Kingdom. To be able to become the city lord of such a city, Zhao Ya's father should be rather powerful and holds great influence. If his butler was killed and he chooses to pursue this matter, it might be possible for him to investigate onto himself. If so, he would be in deep trouble. Being a newcomer in this world, he has yet to create a firm foothold for him to stand on, so it is best for him to keep a low profile. I mustn't let me become suspicious of me. The thought flashes through his mind. Since Yao Han cannot be killed, then Zhang Zan have to let him go alive. For him to get beaten him in the midst of an assault against Zhang Zan would definitely be the first person he would be suspicious of.
Oh right, I have the perfect scapegoat for this.
If he didn't come looking for trouble today, I wouldn't have thought of him. A person flashes through Zhang Zan's mind. That person is the man who was beside Shen Bai Ru earlier today, the one who kept mocking him, Shang Bin. Anyway, that fellow is the grandson of Elder Shang Chen. If Zhang Zan were to push the blame to him, Yao Han wouldn't dare to take revenge even if he wanted to. In fact, it would be better if Yao Han were to take revenge. The two of them would then bite viciously onto one another. At this point, Zhang Zan stares at the distorted face of Yao Han and deepens his voice. I have a grudge with Zhang Zan. Earlier today, he got on my nerves and so, I intended to teach him a lesson in the night. However, if he were to be castrated by you, she would definitely suspect that I am the one who did it and a misunderstanding would arise between us. Blame this all on the fact that you met me today, as well as your untimely arrival. Only now did Yao Han know why he was thrashed. He wants to retort, but his mouth is swollen like a pair of sausages, making it impossible for him to talk.
Scram!
Seeing that the other party has comprehended his words, Zhang Zan doesn't continue speaking. He stands up and kicks Yao Han's body a dozen meters away.
Damn it!
Hurling vulgarities towards the other party in his mind, Yao Han knows that he is in a disadvantageous situation today. Gritting his teeth, he turns away and leaves. At the same time, he carves the two main characteristics of the attacker onto his mind. Firstly, the person who beat him up had encountered this Zhang Zan earlier in the day and was incensed by his words or actions.
Secondly, the relationship between him and Zhang Zan should be love rivals.
The woman who they are pursuing has a "bai" in her name. As long as he remembers this two distinctive features, it is an easy task for him to find out who the fellow who laid his hands on him is. Only after seeing Yao Han disappear into the distance does Zhang Zan heave a sigh of relief. He pats away the dirt on his clothes and returns back to the dormitory. This event is a great fright to him. If he didn't stay up to cultivate tonight, it would be hard to tell what would have happened. However, at least the danger is averted temporarily. The key to survival in this world: power. Sitting on the bed in his dormitory, Zhang Zan mutters to himself. If his cultivation didn't soar today, even if he knew Yao Han's weaknesses, he wouldn't have been a match for him. The one to suffer in the end will be him. Thus, the urgent matter at hand is for him to swiftly raise his strength. The stronger he is, the better it is. He slowly drifts into the world of dream with his mind filled with sentimentality. The next day, Zhang Zan wakes up the moment the sky lights up. Although he has barely slept for 2 hours, not to mention how hard he had worked the previous night, he still feels refreshed without the slightest fatigue. Time to start lessons? He mutters as he puts on his clothes. After which, he walks to his classroom with large strides. It didn't take long for him to arrive at his classroom. The moment he pushes the door open, a plump youth welcomes him enthusiastically. Zhang Laoshi, you are here.
Look, I have already finished cleaning up the room.
He is the final student Zhang Zan accepted yesterday, the fatty Yuan Dao. Zhang Zan didn't expect that this fellow would be the first to arrive, given how he threatened him yesterday. Furthermore, he even cleaned the classroom's spick and span. Not bad. Zhang Zan nods his head in approval. Hee. Since teacher said that I did not bad, is there any reward for my effort? Like some martial art or cultivation technique and such. You can casually reward me with 3 or 5 of them. Hearing Zhang Zan's acknowledgement, a wide smile appears on Fatty's face. This fellow is the type who would go too far when you give him some leeway. Wait by the side first.
I will start the lesson after the other students arrive.
Zhang Zan gestures. The first to arrive is Fatty. Unexpectedly, the second to arrive is the student whom he won from the bet, Lu Yang. However, Lu Yang's attitude isn't as good as Fatty's. Indignation spells on his face as he gazes at Zhang Zan with a look of contempt. In his opinion, Zhang Zan only won the bet by luck, and it is a torture for a genius like him to come under the tutelage of a teacher of such horrendous standards. The third to arrive is the youth who specializes in the way of the spear, Zheng Yang. After Zhang Zan pointed out the problem in Zheng Yang's spear, his strength rose by more than a single fold. As a result, Zheng Yang holds great confidence towards his teacher, and out of the current few students who acknowledged Zhang Zan, He is the only one who came to him on his own free will. The fourth to arrive is Wang Ying. The shy lass couldn't help but blush upon catching sight of the other students when she enters and immediately hides at the corner.
Ellipsis 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 ellipsis.
I should be able to solve the problem of my body today. Zhao Ya opens her eyes. Yesterday, the academy's worst teacher claimed that he is capable of solving her problem. After returning to her dormitory, she felt lost and worried, causing her to roll about her bed, only falling asleep after a long time later. Regardless of whether the other party is telling the truth or lying, there would surely be a conclusion by the end of today. When such a thought strikes her, she gargles her mouth, puts on her clothes and leaves the room swiftly. As the daughter of Baiyu City Lord and one of the top 10 scorers of the entrance examinations, she is granted a personal residence, unlike the shared dormitory of the other students. There are many rooms in the residence and the butler, Uncle Yao, stays in one of the rooms not too far away from hers. "Uncle Yao, I'm going to class." Seeing no movements in the room after shouting, Zhao Ya prepares to walk off. "Young mistress, wait for me.
I will go with you."
A shout echoes from beyond the door. The door opens and Yao Han walks out. Looking at his face, Zhao Ya is taken aback.
"Uncle Yao, you.
What happened?" Zhao Ya is stunned to see Yao Han's swollen face and the dark rings around his eyes. In a single night, the dignified Yao Han has been disfigured. If it wasn't for the familiar voice, she wouldn't have known who he is. "Oh, I accidentally hit myself after getting too absorbed in my training yesterday," Yao Han explains.
Who would hit themselves in the midst of their training?
Is it possible for anyone to find an even worse excuse than that? "Uncle Yao, what happened? Who did it? No. I have to tell my dad." Zhao Ya exclaims furiously. "Young mistress, don't bother yourself with this. This is my own problem. I can resolve it myself. You better hurry to your class first. I want to see how the teacher you acknowledged is like. If his standards are exactly like what the rumors dictate, I will immediately report this to the city lord and have the Hongtian Academy get a new teacher for you." Yao Han waves his hand imposingly. However, as his movements are too big, his wounds are pulled on and cold sweat drenches his back.
"Fine."
Seeing how adamant Yao Han is against her interference in the matter, Zhao Ya doesn't touch on any further on the subject. The two of them walk towards Zhang Zan's classroom. "Uncle Yao, given how severely wounded you are, I think you should go back and rest first. I can attend the lesson by myself. There is no need for you to send me." After walking a short distance, Zhao Ya noticed how his entire body is trembling and drenched in sweat. She couldn't help but say these words. Yesterday, Zhang Zan didn't pull back his blows even in the least. Despite applying medicine on the wounds and resting for a few hours, his wounds are still severe. It is quite incredible that he is even able to walk. "Young mistress, the city lord has tasked me to find a good teacher for you before we set off. Yet, you had to choose such a fellow. How can I face the city lord in the future?" Yao Han says. "No matter what, I want to expose the true face of that fellow before you and prove to you that he is a fraud. Only our pure and innocent young mistress would fall for his tricks. Given those standards of his, it is impossible for him to recruit a second student. When you finally witness that there are no other students in his class, you would know that."
Jia.
The door to the classroom is pushed open, revealing its interior. Within the classroom sits Zhang Zan and his 4 new students. Chapter 20. After hearing that the young mistress has acknowledged Zhang Zan as her master, Yao Han rushes here furiously, oblivious to the fact that Zhang Zan has already accepted several students. He had just let out word that the other party would be unable to recruit a second student other than the young mistress, but in the next moment, he meets Wang Ying and the rest. He feels as though he was slapped in the face in public. His face immediately darkens.
Teacher.
Zhao Ya also feels a burning sensation on her face and she feels tempted to find a burrow to hide in. You are alright? A short moment later, Yao Han recovers and stares in confusion at Zhang Zan. That fellow yesterday was so brutal to him. So he thought that even if Zhang Zan isn't reduced to a pighead, he would at the very least be crippled. So why does he seem to be fully intact, to the point of being unable to find even a single scratch on his skin? Actually, even though he said that he wanted to assess Zhang Zan's standards as a teacher, his true purpose is to see his pathetic state after getting thrashed by the mysterious man. Yet, in the end, as a Fighter 6 Dan Pishui realm expert, he went to assault him yet ended up getting beaten up while the one who he intended to assault isn't even wounded in the least. He feels as though he has lost greatly and he finds it unacceptable. Why wouldn't I be alright? Zhang Zan knows what Yao Han is thinking but he replies with a stoic expression. He looks towards Zhao Ya and asks, "This disabled person is?" Disabled person? A peculiar expression appears on Zhao Ya's face. Before she could speak, a voice interrupts her. "You are the one who is disabled." Yao Han suppresses the urge to vomit blood. His eyebrows shoot upwards and he flings the sleeves of his robe. "I am the butler of Baiyu City Lord Residence, Yao Han." "Oh, since you are disabled, you shouldn't be walking around here. Otherwise, if you were to die here, it would be difficult for me to explain." As though not hearing his words, Zhang Zan gestures to the door, "Send off our guest and shut the door." "You!" Yao Han clenches his fist furiously and almost exploded on the spot. Who is he? The butler of Baiyu City Lord Residence. He possesses great authority. In the Hongtian Academy, even the executive of the Education Bureau would have to give in to him. Yet, a teacher like Zhang Zan dares to say that he is disabled and even tries to throw him out. How could it be possible for him to not be angry? "I want to see how you are going to teach them." Putting his hands behind him, Yao Han stands upright proudly. "Oh, since you know that you have to leave, make it fast. We need to maintain a silent atmosphere when teaching the students, so we don't just allow any cats and dogs in our classrooms." Zhang Zan seems to be on a different frequency as him. As though hearing nothing at all, he gestures towards the exit yet again. "You! Who are you calling cat and dog?" The rage burns with him and blood flows out from his wounds. Yao Han trembles uncontrollably. "Do you think that I wouldn't dare to kill you with a palm of mine right now? Zhao Ya, send him out so that I can solve your problem." Can't be bothered to argue with the other party, Zhang Zan signals to Zhao Ya. "Uncle Yao, please, leave for the moment. I am about to start lessons." Hearing those words, Zhao Ya's eyes light up. "I am not leaving.
I want this fellow to clarify who he is talking about."
Yao Han, a Fighter 6 Dan Pishui realm expert, is respected wherever I go. Who dares to say that I am crippled, even trying to drive me out? Peng. Before he could finish his words, Zhao Ya pushes him out. The next moment, the sight before him turns dark as the door closes on him. If he didn't dodge fast enough, he would have been smacked by the door. "Young mistress." Standing outside the door, Yao Han frowns and his face twitches. If he was driven out by Zhang Zan, he would surely retaliate. However, since it was the young mistress who drove him out, he wouldn't dare to lay his hands on her even if he was beaten to death. Even so, he directs all the resentment he has accumulated onto Zhang Zan. He is unable to understand what capabilities the fellow possess, to be capable of deluding the young mistress to such an extent. "Uncle Yao, I'm sorry to bother you to wait outside. We are going to start lessons." Zhao Ya knows about her own problem. Her own illness must not be revealed to anyone, especially to Uncle Yao. If her teacher is going to help her solve her problem, she would naturally have to drive him away. "Fine, young mistress. I will be waiting outside. If anything happens, call me and I will rush in immediately." Hearing the words of the young mistress, Yao Han knows that he would be unable to enter. He is on the verge of erupting, but without a choice, he could only grit his teeth and bear with it. After Yao Han leaves, only Zhang Zan's 5 newly accepted students and him remain in the room. Zhang Zan surveys the surrounding. Since all of you have acknowledged me as your teacher, you all would be fellow peers. Make sure to take good care of one another so as to not sully my prestige. Prestige? Hearing this word, the 5 students stare at one another. Teacher, you don't seem to have any prestige? Cough cough. Even if we wanted to sully it, there is nothing there to sully. My way to teaching is slightly different from the others.
I pay particular importance to cater teachings to the student's personal condition.
The way to guiding everyone is different. Thus, there is nothing to compare between you all. Zhang Zan seems oblivious to the expressions of his students and puts on the airs of a teacher. Right now, I will go to the little room by the side. When I call your name, enter the little room. Zhang Zan's classroom isn't big, around 100 square meters. Even so, there is a partition in which the teacher is able to give specific guidance to a student. These 5 students are different from one another. If he were to guide them together as a whole, it would be troublesome and highly ineffective. Wang Ying, you are my first student. Come in. After which, Zhang Zan leads the way into the small room.
Yes.
Given Wang Ying's obedient nature, she doesn't dare to retort and walks closely behind him.
Ellipsis 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 ellipsis.
Wang Ying feels a little regretful. Yesterday, she got lost and came over to ask for directions. Yet, she was scammed into acknowledging this teacher as her mentor. Initially, she didn't know what was going on, but after thinking through it, this teacher doesn't seem to be truly capable. Other teachers are able to tell the problem with her leg through her punching routine. However, not only was this fellow unable to tell, he even bragged about being able to cure the injury on her leg. For this injury, her father even found the most famous of physicians, but it was to no avail. Even so, the man before her claims that he is able to treat her. If this isn't a scam, what could this be?
Furthermore, Lu Laoshi told her many things regarding this teacher.
Only then did she realize that this teacher had such a radiant background. The first teacher to score a 0 in the teacher qualification examination and the weakest in terms of strength among the teachers. Why was she so unfortunate to be scammed by him and to believe his words? No wonder Big Brother said that there are many bad guys outside. When her elder brother told her that there were untrustworthy people outside, she didn't believe him. Now, looking at the teacher before her, she feels wronged, that she has been lied to. Just as she is thinking about how she should withdraw from the lessons of this teacher, that at most it would simply end with a scolding and she could find her elder brother to help her find another teacher, she hears a familiar voice sounding out. Display your battle technique once more. Zhang Zan sits at the center of the room and looks over with a calm expression. The previous time, when he tried to coax Wang Ying into joining him, the Library of Heaven's path wasn't activated yet, so he still has no idea what flaws do Wang Ying have.
Alright. Although Wang Ying is tempted to withdraw from the lessons, she nods her head after hesitating for a moment.
Once again, her fists generate gusts of wind and soon, her punching routine came to an end. Zhang Zan nods his head.
Although Wang Ying's character may be a little dense, her punching routine is quite satisfactory.
Teacher, actually I want to. Wang Ying wavers for a moment and just when she was about to express her intention to withdraw from Zhang Zan's lesson, the young man opposite of her speaks. If I'm not wrong, your leg was probably struck by someone during a duel 2 years ago. Zhang Zan says. You? How did you know? Wang Ying is taken aback. Her words jam in her mouth as her beautiful eyes widen in circles. She only talked about the injury on her leg yesterday, and not the origin of it. She didn't expect the other party to be capable of telling that it is an injury from someone's blow and even the time of the injury. she couldn't help but be shocked. There are 3 acupoints on a person's leg, and individually, they govern strength, speed and dexterity. When you battled with someone else, the other party accidentally struck the acupoint which governs strength. When this acupoint is struck, it closes, resulting in your blood to flow in reverse, thus preventing you from exerting strength on it like any other normal person. Zhang Zan states calmly. That. Wang Ying's body trembles. Her face flushes completely red. For her leg, Wang Ying's father had invited all of the renowned doctors in the kingdom, including the famous master Xuanhuan. He seems to have spoken similar words, but even he was unable to identify where the acupoint which governs strength is, thus he was unable to treat her. If she wants to be treated once and for all, she has to invite a fighter 8 Dan Zongxi realm master who possesses superior zhenqi to treat her. Otherwise, it is impossible for the treatment to succeed. Initially, she thought that this teacher who claimed that he would be able to treat her leg is just trying to coax her to come under his tutelage. Yet, she didn't expect that he would say the exact same words as what Master Xuanyu said, so how could she not be shocked? "Teacher, are you able to treat me?" Wang Ying couldn't resist asking. "It is just a small matter." Zhang Zan replies her question blandly. "A small matter?" Wang Ying's eyes narrow as her breathing quickens. Chapter 21. Even though she had no problem walking normally with her leg injury, she faced great difficulty in her training. It feels as though poison has soaked into her bones. In the past half-year, there doesn't seem to be a single day she spent in happiness. Precisely so, she became the current her who is a little fearful towards stranger, as well as reticent. Initially, she thought that her injury would stay with her for her entire life. Yet, she didn't expect that the Zhangzan Lao Shi, whom everyone thought was trash, would say that, it is a small matter. She found it hard to believe what her ears are hearing. If it was a moment ago, she might have thought that Zhang Zan was simply bragging. However, from the instant he pointed out the reason behind her injury, expectation starts to well up in her. "The reason why I had you to come into this room individually is to treat you. Alright, relax your entire body." Zhang Zan retrieves a medium-sized jade box from the room and opens it gently. Within it lies numerous silver needles of different length. During the training sessions of a martial artist, it is easy for one to incur injuries. Thus, the academy prepared a kit of such in every single classroom to help to boost blood circulation of the wounded, as well as to temporarily ease the injury. "Yes." Wang Ying listens to the voice of the young man which was steadfast, confident but without a trace of arrogant and replies. Somehow, Wang Ying trusts the man before her from the depths of her heart and her tense body relaxes. "Su!" Sitting on his original spot without moving, he grabs a silver needle and flicks it over. A soft sound and the silver needle he infused with zhenqi shoots tautly towards Wang Ying and pierces her leg. "This is Zephyr acupuncture?" Wang Ying widens her eyes as her slim body trembles yet again. Zephyr acupuncture. It is a method which makes use of a martial artist's control over his strength to control the pathway of the silver needles to pierce the correct spots without coming into contact with the patient's body. In this way, a male physician would be able to apply acupuncture without coming into proximity to a female patient. This way, awkwardness between the two is able to be avoided. Such a method of practicing acupuncture may seem simple, but it is actually incredibly complicated. Firstly, it requires the martial artist to hold absolute control over his strength. If there is a slight imprecision, there is a high possibility that it would result in failure. Furthermore, one's eyes must be sharp. It is difficult to recognize the exact acupoints beneath the patient's clothes. If the physician were to recognize the acupuncture inaccurately, all kind of troubles could happen. Master Xuanyu has once said that one must at least attain the cultivation level of Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm to practice Zephyr acupuncture. Has the teacher termed as trash in the academy reached such a level? Impossible. Those who have reached Dingli realm are all famous figures in the academy, such as the famous teacher Lu Xuan.
According to Lu Laoshi, Zhangzan Laoshi is only a fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm.
There is still a huge way to go before he reaches 5 Dan Dingli realm. A fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm is capable of executing Zephyr acupuncture? She finds it unbelievable. Su 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 su. While she is still in a state of disbelief, the young man flicks a few more silver needle towards her. A few gusts of wind whip up and the silver needles pierce into her leg with the exact same depth. This shows that the other party has already reached a rather advanced level of his control over his strength. The silver needle pierces into the flesh of her leg. Just as Wang Ying is about to ask Zhang Zan how he intends to treat her, his hand slides past the needle and the zhenqi that is contained in the needle activates and probes into her body. Ah! As the zhenqi enters her body, she feels a tingling sensation in her leg. The acupoint which was sealed previously immediately opens under the surge of the zhenqi. This is superior zhenqi? As the tingling sensation spreads across her entire body, Wang Ying clearly sees the look of the zhenqi in her body. Clear like water, deprived of any impurities. This is the quality that only superior zhenqi would possess. Superior zhenqi? That is something that can only be cultivated if one possesses a god or saint cultivation technique. In the entire Tianquan kingdom, it is unheard of for anyone to cultivate superior zhenqi. Yet, to think the lousiest teacher in the academy would possess it? It can't be that I am seeing things. Done. While she was still overwhelmed by shock, her body relaxes completely and slumps. By then, the silver needles had already been retrieved by the other party. Following which, Wang Ying feels a surge of relaxation in her leg, a comfortable sensation which she has never experienced. After her injury, although she is still able to move normally, her legs feel as though they have been plastered, plagued with a stiff sensation at all times. At this moment, wave after wave of pleasant sensation surges through her leg, as though it has broken through some shackles. Her leg feels incomparably nimble and lively. My leg. She might be slow-witted, but it is clear to see that the injury on her leg has been cured. Teacher, thank. Wang Ying's knees slacken and she kneels onto the floor. Her eyes are entirely red. For this day, she has waited for a very long time. In fact, she even felt despair at her situation. Never in her dreams would she imagine that such a stubborn illness would be cured by the academy's worst teacher. It seems that the fact is that he is a very capable person, just that he maintains a low profile. Such a thought pops into her head. If he wasn't intentionally maintaining a low profile, regardless of how his lessons are like, just the fact that he is able to cure her legs means that he is more than capable of building his reputation up in this academy. How else is it possible for him to be the last in the teacher qualification examination? With such a thought in mind, Wang Ying kneels to the floor and acknowledges Zhang Zan as her teacher from the depths of her heart. All thoughts of withdrawing from his tutelage dispel. Now that your leg injury has recovered, go out and train properly. If you have any other problems, come over and find me afterward. Zhang Zan gestures and entrusts her with a task. By the way, call Lu Yang over. Yes. Wang Ying replies excitedly before walking out of the room. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. I intend to withdraw from his lessons later. Are any of you all with me? In the classroom, after Lu Yang, Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya and Yuan Dao had introduced themselves to one another, Lu Yang said, "To tell the truth, he feels extremely dispirited. Scoring within the top 100, there are many top teachers who are vying for him. Yet, in the end, due to the bet made between two teachers, he was lost to the worst teacher in the entire academy. The intense feeling of being wronged makes him go into a frenzy. No matter what, I have to withdraw from his lessons today. Even if it means that I have to withdraw from the school. No one will be able to halt my footsteps. I also want to withdraw from his lessons. But if Zhang Zan Lao Shi were to be angered, it is hard to tell what he might do. Fatty Yuan Dao couldn't resist saying, "Angry? HMPH, so what if he is angry? What can he do?"
I don't want to go berserk from his misguidance.
Lu Yang scoffs. Berserk? Zheng Yang looks over doubtfully. He only knows that the teacher before him scored badly for the teacher qualification examination, being the last of the lot. He has never heard of the incident of a student going berserk from his guidance. Lu Yang continues, "If you don't believe it, just wait and see." When Wang Ying walks out later, her face would surely be awful. She would feel like she has been scammed. I have already long heard of Zhang Zan Lao Shi's teaching standards. If he was able to offer proper pointers, he wouldn't have landed in such a state, being viewed in contempt by the other teachers.
Jia.
Just as they were speaking, the door opens and Wang Ying walks out with an excited look. Lu Yang is taken aback. Initially, he thought that she would be depressed, yet contrary to his expectations, she is smiling happily. The other few students are also puzzled. That joy comes from the depths of her heart. She must have reaped some great rewards for such an expression to appear. Could it be that the teacher with such a horrible reputation could give proper pointers? To get a student to be so excited in just a single session, as though she has attained some precious treasure, probably even the famous Lu Xuan Lao Shi isn't capable of such a feat. "Lu Yang, teacher called for you to enter." Oblivious to what the others are thinking, Wang Ying informs him before going to one corner to start training. "Me?" Lu Yang clenches his jaw. "I would like to see what pointers you are able to offer me. If you can't offer me any good pointers, I will withdraw from your lessons." Muttering silently in his heart, he walks into the room. Chapter 22. Lu Yang might have been guided by Zhang Zan previously, but he doesn't believe that the latter is capable. Rather, he thought that Zhang Zan simply got lucky. After all, asking someone to use a different hand to execute a punching routine doesn't involve much skill. Thus, from the depths of his heart, he still looks down on the teacher in front of him. "Teacher." Walking into the room, he cups his hand and bows slightly to Zhang Zan, although his tone isn't very respectful.
"I have seen you execute your battle techniques before."
Seemingly oblivious to his disrespect, Zhang Zan continues, "To be able to train Soaring Flower Fist to the rookie level and Dragon Inch Fist to the expert level, not bad." "What? You? How did you know that I am trained in Dragon Inch Fist?" Hearing those words, Lu Yang, who was disregarding Zhang Zan, almost faints from shock. Logically, due to his weak strength, he should have focused on his cultivation technique. Even if he has to learn battle technique, he should have practiced a normal battle technique such as Soaring Flower Fist instead of Dragon Inch Fist. Dragon Inch Fist, being a mortal lower-tier battle technique, is much more formidable than the Soaring Flower Fist. In order to become stronger, he hid the fact that he was practicing this punch routine from his family members. Ever since his Dragon Inch Fist reached rookie level, he has never executed it in front of anyone else. Previously, the battle technique which he showed Zhang Zan was the Soaring Flower Fist. Yet, Zhang Zan was able to tell that he practices the Dragon Inch Fist and that it is at the expert level. How could he tell? There is shadows of the Dragon Inch Fist in your Soaring Flower Fist. Naturally, Zhang Zan can't possibly reveal that it is due to the Library of Heaven's path. He didn't even blink when telling an outright lie. You can even tell from that. Lu Yang is still in a state of disbelief. The two skills aren't even in the slightest related to one another. Previously, he also executed the Soaring Flower Fist in front of Cao Shan Lao Shi, but he wasn't able to tell that much from it. Yet, the Academy's worst teacher is able to see through it with one glance. Is this for real? While he is still holding doubts in his heart, the teacher sitting before him continues. Reaching the level of an expert, your Dragon Inch Fist holds considerable might. However, do you feel an ache under your armpits and an itch in your jianjin acupoint whenever you execute it?
This.
Taking a few steps back, Lu Yan looks as though he has seen a ghost, fear appearing within his eyes. Not only are the words of the other party correct, they are exactly spot on. It is as though he has seen him training.
You.
How did you know? Lu Yan couldn't help but ask with a pale face. It is very simple, you have been practicing an inappropriate battle technique. If you continue training at this rate, I can guarantee that the muscles of your entire arm will be destroyed within 3 years. Even immortals will find it hard to save you. In fact, the effects are already apparent now. Do you feel your body going stiff when you are sleeping at night, sometimes even spasming? Zhang Zan questions. Lu Yang trembles. Indeed, he has such a condition. Just that, he thought it was due to over-exhaustion from excessive training, so he didn't pay it much heed.
Never in his dreams would imagine that it was due to him practicing the Dragon Inch Fist.
Dragon Inch Fist. It is a skill which regards one's body like a dragon and emphasizes the concept of might in every inch of your body. If you had reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm and had Zhenqi nourish your muscles, there won't be any side effects from cultivating this battle technique. However, you are only in Juxi realm and your body is far too weak.
Forcefully cultivating this battle technique will only cause your body to be injured.
As time passes, the injury will only worsen. This is also the reason why, although you aren't left-handed, your left hand possesses significantly greater strength than your right hand. That is because you practiced the Dragon Inch Fist with your right, causing great damage to it. If you don't stop now, you will become crippled. Zhang Zan warns. Teacher, save me. At this moment, Lu Yang no longer possesses the arrogance he had when he first walked in. His knees weaken and he kneels to the floor. At this moment, he understands that the teacher before him is definitely an expert, a master among experts. That is because everything Zhang Zan said fits perfectly with what is happening to him. If Zhang Zan didn't voice it out, Lu Yang wouldn't have paid much attention to it. However, now that he has stated all of it out clearly and logically, Lu Yang immediately understands that everything he said is true. In the face of such an expert, what rights does he have to remain arrogant? It is laughable that he thought that he felt wronged for acknowledging him as his teacher.
Only now does he realize how fortunate he is.
Before acknowledging Cao Xiang, he has also met quite a few notable teachers in the academy and displayed his battle technique before them. However, they were unable to tell that he is trained in the Dragon Inch Fist, needless to say, seeing through the fact that his right arm is injured. First, stop training in the Dragon Inch Fist and try your best to raise your cultivation. As for the injury that you have sustained and accumulated, I will think of an idea to solve it. Zhang Zan declares. Alright, call Zhao Ya in.
Yes. Lu Yang nods his head hurriedly.
Not daring to say anything further, he quickly walks out. The moment he walks out, he sees Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya and Yuan Dao staring at him. Have you withdrawn from Zhangzan Laoxi's tutelage? Yuan Dao asks in agitation. Withdraw? Why should I withdraw? Lu Yang waves his hand and declares proudly, his face not turning red in the slightest. He who teaches me for 1 day is my father for life. I, Lu Yang, will not withdraw from Zhangzan Laoxi's lessons. What kind of people do you think I am? Do I look like that casual a person? I really don't know what you all are thinking, to be thinking about withdrawing all day long. Aren't you all embarrassed? Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya and Yuan Dao. Shameless. He is too shameless. Just a moment ago, he is still going on about how determined he is to withdraw from Zhang Zan's lessons. Yet, in the blink of an eye, he changed his words entirely. Exactly how thick is his skin? That teacher is probably truly capable. Seeing the vastly different attitudes between the two when they went in and came out, Zhao Ya thinks in her mind as she pushes the door open. Actually, after hearing Uncle Yao Han's words, it isn't like she never wavered in her determination. However, the truth still stands that the other party was able to point out her illness accurately, giving her hope for a cure. After all, she is too embarrassed to speak of this illness in front of others, so it is impossible for her to reveal it to too many people.
Sit down.
Upon walking into the room, she sees Zhang Laoshi and sits down. Teacher, you said that you can cure my illness. Zhao Ya reddens.
Zhang
Zhan nods his head. Your illness is an easy problem. Actually, it isn't very difficult to solve Zhao Ya's problem. She isn't really sick, but rather, she possesses the pure yin body, a physical body which countless women desire. The yin energy in her body is overpowering, and if it is directed correctly, her cultivation would soar rapidly. However, it is a pity that no one in Baiyu City noticed it and even chose a yin nature cultivation technique for her. For the other females, it is indeed quite a good manual to cultivate. However, for Zhao Ya, who possesses a pure yin body, to cultivate such a cultivation technique, it is simply worsening the situation for her. The yin energy in her body accumulates gradually over time. When she was younger, it was still undetectable. However, as her body develops, the unique traits of a female becomes apparent and she would start to find it hard to suppress her urges. If she isn't cured in time and continues on this way, she might become a being possessed by her lust and find it hard to satisfy his desires no matter how hard she tries. This is precisely the reason why such an awkward situation is occurring in her. Zhao Ya is taken aback. She didn't know that she possesses a pure yin body.
In fact, even her father is oblivious to the fact.
However, the part about her cultivating a pure yin cultivation technique is true. Is this really the cause? White jade pure maiden skill, it is an impressive skill, but it isn't suited for you. If you want to solve this problem at its roots, you have to find another new cultivation technique. After explaining the situation, Zhang Zhan states, How did you know that I cultivate the white jade pure maiden skill? Zhao Ya is taken aback. This cultivation technique has been passed down in the Baiyu city.
Other than the Bai family, there are very few people who are aware of it.
Even the butler Yao Han, who is at the entrance of the classroom now, isn't too sure about it. Yet, the teacher before her is able to point it out instantly. Zhao Ya is in a state of disbelief. If I am capable of seeing through illness, naturally, I would be able to see through your cultivation technique as well. Zhang Zhan tilts his head 45 degrees as he assumes the look of an expert whose depth cannot be seen. Cultivating a new cultivation technique can solve the problem? Then, what kind of cultivation technique should I cultivate? Suppressing the astonishment in her mind forcefully, Zhao Ya asks. You should find a cultivation technique capable of unleashing the potential of your body, and not one that accumulates yin energy. How about this, I will go to the Academy's Compendium Pavilion to take a look for you to see if there are any suitable ones for you.
Zhang Zhan says. Thank you, teacher.
Zhao Ya nods her head hurriedly. The problem hasn't been solved yet, but at the very least, she is aware of the cause now. A surge of exhilaration gushes through her heart.
Zhang
Zhan waves his hands to show that it is a small matter. Call Zhang Yang in.
While Zhang Zhan is providing pointers to his students in the room,
outside the classroom, a tall youth walks over in widened strides. Elder Lu, is what you said true? As the tall youth walks, he questions the elderly following him behind. Young master, that is the truth. Young mistress has acknowledged Zhang Zhan as her master. Old Lu nods his head quickly. If Zhang Zhan was here, he would definitely be able to recognize that the old Lu here is the person who tried to withdraw Wang Ying from his lessons yesterday. The person who he calls young master should be Wang Ying's elder brother, the genius of Hongtian Academy, the disciple of an elder, Wang Dao. Zhang Zhan? The teacher who scored a 0 for his teacher qualification examination? What rights does he have to teach my younger sister? Damn it! If I don't teach him a lesson today to let him know the price for deceiving my younger sister, I will not call myself Wang Dao." As Wang Dao walks towards the classroom, he declares furiously. Chapter 23 Tianxuan City is the capital of Tianxuan Kingdom. To be capable of becoming one of the 4 great families of the city, the prowess of the Wang family is one to behold. Even the principal of the Hongtian Academy would have to spare some face for such a powerful family. To think that of all teachers, Wang Ying would choose to acknowledge a fellow who has scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. That is an insult. A massive insult. Even though other people might not be aware of the affairs shrouding Zhang Zan, as a student of the academy, Wang Dao has heard a lot about him. He has once misguided a student, causing his cultivation to go berserk, thus sullying the reputation of the teachers. This person is the topic of discussion and target of mockery over a meal or tea with his peers. Yet, never in his imaginations would he expect his younger sister to choose to acknowledge him as her teacher. If the other students were to be informed of it, wouldn't he become a laughingstock? The more he thinks about it, the more angry Wang Dao becomes. He walks towards the entrance of the classroom and spots Yao Han, who is wrapped like a mummy. I see, it is young master Wang Dao. As the butler of Baiyu City Lord Residence, Yao Han had come into contact with many different powers. Given that Wang Dao is a talented genius and the son of the head of the Wang family, it is natural for Yao Han to be aware of his existence. You are. Glancing at him, Wang Dao's eyebrows shoot up. After getting beaten up so savagely, not a single hint of his original appearance remains. Even Zhao Ya finds it hard to recognize him in his current state. Needless to say, Wang Dao. I am Yao Han from Baiyu City. Yao Han says. Oh, so you are Butler Yao. Why are you? Wang Dao is slightly taken aback. I accidentally injured myself in the midst of training. Yao Han explains awkwardly before changing the topic. May I ask what young master Wang Dao is here for? My younger sister has acknowledged Zhang Zan as her teacher. I am here to take her back, as well as to teach the arrogant teacher a lesson. Wang Dao doesn't even try to conceal his rage. Ah! Your younger sister? You mean Wang Ying Shaoji? Yao Han was driven out of the classroom right shortly after he entered it. Furthermore, his attention was focused on Zhang Zan the whole time, thus, he didn't notice Wang Ying's presence. Wang Dao nods his head. I have heard that Wang Ying Shaoji's talent is in no way inferior to yours. Why would she choose him? Yao Han is puzzled. My younger sister rarely comes into contact with the outside world and has an innocent personality. That fellow has a glib tongue and I'm not sure what the fellow said, but my younger sister actually believed the nonsense he spouted. Recalling what old Lu told him, fury flares from Wang Dao. How vile! That fellow is a scourge, the scum among the teachers. Upon recalling how the young mistress of his family has fallen for his deception as well, he grits his teeth angrily. Young master Wang Dao, you have to teach that fellow a lesson. On. Wang Dao replies. At the same time, he stares at him doubtfully. Right, Butler Yao, why are you here? Let's not talk about it. The more I talk about it, the angrier I get. Our young mistress had also fallen for the deceitful words of Zhang Zan and acknowledged him as her teacher. Yao Han scoffs. You mean Zhao Ya Shaoji? Wang Dao is taken aback. Yes. Yao Han nods his head. Then, why don't you barge in and expose that hypocritical fellow? Why are you waiting at the entrance instead? Wang Dao is bewildered. I wanted to expose that fellow, but our young mistress got agitated. I had no choice but to wait outside. Young master Wang Dao, you came at a perfect timing. If you were to go in now, teach that shameless fellow a lesson and expose his ugly intentions, our young mistress would be able to see his true colors. Yao Han says. Rest assured, I will be exposing his fraud now. I will make sure that shameless fellow reveals his despicable self. Wang Dao grits his teeth and nods his head. Then, he kicks the door open and walks in with widened strides.
Ellipsis 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 ellipsis.
On the other hand, Zhang Zan has finally gone through the individual situations of his 5 students with them. There are quite a few flaws with Zheng Yang's spear. Zhang Zan elaborated on them slightly, causing Zheng Yang's strength to soar once again, and the latter rejoiced over his improvement. On the other hand, Yuan Dao has never cultivated a proper cultivation technique or battle technique. Zhang Zan took out the Academy's basic Hongtian 9 Dan formula's 1 Dan formula and modified it slightly before passing it to him. He didn't modify much of it, so there is still a large gap between it and the Heaven's Path divine art that he is currently cultivating with. Even so, it is still several times more effective than the original Hongtian 9 Dan formula. With just one look, Yuan Dao almost leaps up from the joy rushing through him, overjoyed to realize that he has acknowledged an accomplished teacher. Alright, I have roughly gone through the problems you all have on you. You all need to persevere in your training. Returning back to the classroom, Zhang Zan gathered all 5 of his students together and was explaining the situation to them when boom, the door to the classroom is kicked open. Following which, a furious howl echoes in the room. Zhang Zan, withdraw my younger sister and Zhao Yashaoji from your lessons right now. Otherwise, I will make you will suffer. Following which, Wang Dao rushes in and stands furiously before Zhang Zan. His eyes are dyed crimson red, as though he is ready to murder someone. Big brother. Seeing her elder brother in such a state, Wang Ying is shocked and immediately rushes forward. Don't interfere in this. He pushes his younger sister to his back before staring coldly at Zhang Zan. With a haughty expression, he says, Zhang Zan, it is one thing if you use your nonsense to deceive others, but to think that you would dare to coax my younger sister with lies. You are seeking death. I will give you 10 seconds. If you withdraw my younger sister and Zhao Yashaoji from your tutelage now, I can let this slip. If not, even if you are a teacher, don't blame me for not going easy on you. Boom! With a scornful look, Wang Dao releases his full strength, revealing a very powerful aura. He had reached the level of a fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm. No wonder he could become a disciple of an elder. This strength is in no way weaker than an average teacher of the academy. I am conducting lessons right now, get out. Zhang Zan looks at him blandly. Conducting lessons? With your standard, what could you possibly be teaching? Wang Dao mocks him coldly. Get out? You want me to get out? Who do you think you are? The only reason why I call you a teacher is out of basic respect. Look at how you are you not aware of it? You are only a lowly teacher who is still in Zhenqi realm. Don't act like you are a big shot before me. Even if I were to beat you up today, the most that would happen is a reprimand by the elders. What could you possibly do to me? He isn't wrong. There are quite a few disciples of the elders in the academy who are stronger than the teachers and hold esteemed positions in the academy. Even if a conflict were to break out between them and the teachers, the most they would do is to reprimand them slightly. There won't be any severe punishments. Big brother. Wang Ying's face pales. She is very aware of the fact whether the teacher before her has standards or not. When all of the expert physicians in the entire Tianquan kingdom could do nothing about her problem, he was able to solve it casually. How could such a person possibly have no standards at all? Just as he was about to stop that rash elder brother of hers, the face of her teacher darkens and his eyes narrow. Scram! To ask me to scram. He didn't expect that the trash of a teacher would get him to scram. Just as he is about to continue speaking, he catches a glimpse of the cold gaze of the other party. Looking into his eyes, Wang Dao shivers uncontrollably, as though he is a rabbit who had caught the gaze of a tiger. Under the oppression of a powerful aura, he retreats a few steps subconsciously and his legs tremble. He has only felt such sharp aura from his master. How could it possibly appear on the academy's worst teacher, a fellow who is just Fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm." It took a moment before Wang Dao regains his composure. In that instant, Wang Dao's face darkens like an ant's nest as his eyes took on a deep shade of red. In his eyes, even though Zhang Zan is a teacher, he is not any more than a trash. Yet, this trash dares to shout at him and cause him to retreat out of fear. If this were to spread out, how could he possibly face any other people? How would he be able to maintain his prestige? "You are courting death." Feeling humiliated, Wang Dao roars, and with a flick of his hand, the sword on his waist has been drawn.
"Who?"
The sword stabs out in a flash.
Pa pa pa. At Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm, one would possess strength beyond 500 kilograms.
Even before the sword reaches him, the continuous sound generated from the friction between the sword and the wind creates an oppressing atmosphere, as though it would be impossible to counter the attack. Zhang Laoshi. Seeing her elder brother striking out with such speed, Wang Ying's face turns ghastly white. Although she is impressed by the guidance of Zhang Laoshi, she is well aware of the fact that the teacher before her is only at Fighter 3 Dan. He is far from a match for her brother. It is impossible for him to dodge the blow. He would definitely be injured. Frightened, she shrieks in fear and closes her eyes subconsciously. How? How could this be possible? Just when she thought that the Zhang Laoshi who just resolved her problem for her would be wounded by the sword, she hears voices of disbelief from Zhao Ya and the others. She quickly opens her eyes to take a look, and her eyeballs almost popped out from their sockets. She petrifies on the spot. She sees her elder brother's incomparably powerful and mighty slash getting stopped in mid-air, and what is stopping it is the two seemingly weak fingers of Zhang Zan Laoshi. To block such a powerful blow with just the pinching of two fingers. Chapter 24, Impossible. Wang Dao is also in a state of disbelief. Before he came, he had made sure to look into Zhang Zan's strength. Back then, the information he got was that he was only Fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm, a weakling. How could he possibly stop his attack with just two fingers? In order to achieve such a feat, not only must one possess sufficient strength, he must also be precise in his timing, control over his strength, his positioning, and many other factors. If there were to be a slight discrepancy in his judgment, it is possible for his fingers to be severed and he would be severely injured. The other teachers, or perhaps even the Pishui realm elders, would be unable to achieve such a feat. Yet, a fellow who is reputed to be trash. Impossible. Coincidence. It must be a coincidence. Such a thought pops into his mind. A savage look appears on Wang Dao's face once more, and exerting strength through his both hands, he howls, "Let go!" He wants to retrieve his sword that is trapped between the two fingers of Zhang Zan. However, despite trying twice consecutively, to the point that veins are popping out on his temple and that he is about to vomit blood due to overexertion of strength, he is astonished to realize that the sword that is held between the Zhang Zan's fingers seems to be firmly latched onto his fingers. No matter how much strength he exerts, it doesn't budge in any way. Could it be his true strength isn't Zhenqi realm? A peculiar thought appears in his mind. But this is impossible. It hasn't been long since the last teacher qualification examination. Everyone in the academy is aware of the fact that he only has the strength of a Zhenqi realm pinnacle. Furthermore, even if he were to break through his current realm, he would only be at Pigu realm, which is the same level as him. He wouldn't be so hard-pressed just by a mere two fingers of the other party. Scram! Just as Wang Dao is considering the peculiarity of the situation, a surge of might suddenly comes rushing towards him through the sword, and the impassive words of the other party echoes by his ear. "Who?" Before he could even react, his entire body is sent flying through the air. Boom! His head bashes through the door of the classroom. "Alright, let's continue on with our lessons." After casually throwing Wang Dao out, Zhang Zan turns towards the rest and says blandly, Wang Ying, Zhao Ya, Lu Yang, Zheng Yang and Yuan Dao stare at one another. The turn of events left them unable to react and they are on the verge of exploding due to the overwhelming shock. That is a Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm expert. Not mentioning how an attack of his full strength was easily dealt with, to think he would be thrown out with such ease. Isn't this teacher of theirs the worst teacher with the lowest combat ability in the entire academy? How did he do it? Teacher, has been hiding his strength? Suddenly, Zhao Ya comes to a realization as her face flushes from excitement. The only viable explanation is that the teacher before her has been concealing his true strength. If not, how could he possibly point out the problems whom no one else could discern and boost their might with just a casual pointer? The others aren't fools as well. They clench their fist in agitation. Coming to the academy to come under the tutelage of the teachers, who wouldn't hope to be under the guidance of a capable teacher? Before this, everyone thought that their lives would be miserable, judging from how they came under the tutelage of the academy's worst teacher. Only now do they know that they have won in the competition of choosing one's teachers, an overwhelming one at it. The teacher with the worst reputation in the academy is actually a true worldly expert. When their path of thoughts reaches this point, all of the excessive thoughts disappear from their minds as they nod their head vigorously. Even Lu Yang, who held doubts about Zhang Zan's lessons, couldn't help but look over in enthusiasm, afraid that he would miss out a single word of his teacher. What Lu Xuan Laoshi and Wang Chao Laoshi?
All of these has been thrown to the back of their minds.
Not just them, even the elders would have to kneel when compared to Zhang Laoshi.
Ellipsis 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 ellipsis.
To rush in like this, I hope that young master is fine. Outside the classroom, old Lu looks worriedly at Wang Dao, who had barged into the classroom furiously. Rest easy. Wang Dao Xiaoyi has reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm while that Zhang Zan is still stuck at Zhenqi realm. Soon, he would be able to teach him a lesson and bring young mistress Wang Ying out. Xiaoyi to young master. Yao Han nods his head with a bright smile on his face. Just as he is visioning the pathetic state the shameless teacher would be in with his teeth scattered all over the floor, he suddenly hears Wang Dao's furious howl from the room. It has begun. Yao Han's eyes light up and the edges of his mouth creep upwards. If that Zhang Zan was only the last in the entire academy, Yao Han wouldn't be bothered to interfere in his affairs. However, to think that he would dare to be disrespectful to the young mistress. If Zhang Zan didn't execute some underhanded tricks, how could the young mistress possibly willingly acknowledge him as her teacher? If Yao Han were to make a move personally, he would definitely incur the ire of the young mistress, not to mention offending the Hongtian Academy at that. It would be more than ideal for Wang Dao to make a move in his stead. Hongtian Academy is located in Tianquan royal capital, the home ground of the Wang family. Even if Wang Dao were to beat up a teacher, they would definitely have the means to deal with it.
Furthermore, Wang Dao is the disciple of an elder and holds an esteemed position in the academy.
It is much more appropriate for him to make a move. Hee. I would like to see how would that trash of a teacher embarrass himself. The more he thinks about it, the more delighted he gets.
Yao Han creeps towards the doorstep, intending to open up a crack between the doors and peek through it when he hears a boom and the tightly shut doors burst open.
Pung! Yao Han didn't even have the time to react from the sudden assault by the metal door. It slams right into his face, rattling his consciousness. In the midst of his daze, a head comes crashing into him. Gotcha! The intimate encounter between his face and the head creates the crisp melody of the cracking of a bone, and the two remaining teeth that survived yesterday's attack after much difficulty dislodges valiantly.
Pooh! The intense pain causes Yao Han to convulse and a mouthful of fresh blood bursts forth.
His body isn't fragile, but he had yet to recover from his injuries from the prior day. Yesterday, he had been bashed in his face and now, he was slammed by a metal door before a head comes crashing into him right after. It is already quite a blessing for him to be alive at this point. Young master. Old Lu realizes that the one who was sent flying was his young master and he dashes over, frightened. Damn it, damn it! Wang Dao might have knocked into the metal door, but with Yao Han cushioning his fall, he isn't severely injured by that encounter. Standing up and recalling how the trash caught his blow and threw him out, he feels an intense fear. Although he shouted loudly, he didn't dare to approach the classroom anymore. Young Master Wang Dao, you. Faint-headed, Yao Han only realizes at this point that the one who knocked into him is Wang Dao. With an intrigued expression, he struggles to stand up. Didn't you rush in to beat him up? How come you were the one who was sent flying out? I was practicing as a new type of battle technique. Wang Dao didn't dare to say that he had been thrown out by trash, so he could only come up with something else. Battle technique? Yao Han's vision is still blurry from the previous impact. He hurriedly questions, "Did you expose the true face of that fellow? How did our young mistress react?" Cough cough. I didn't have the time to make a move when my younger sister pushed me out. I think. Why don't we try waiting here? Wang Dao says with an embarrassed look. Just a moment ago, he was still declaring how he would make the other party suffer. Yet, the next moment, he was sent flying out. He wouldn't acknowledge such a shameful affair even if he were beaten to the verge of death. Wait! Yao Han scratches his head as doubts appear in his mind. However, he didn't think that he should point them out, so he chooses to change the topic instead. Wang Dao Xiaoyi, I have a question to ask of you, seeing how you are also a student of Hongqian Academy. Xiaoyi to young master, go ahead. Seeing how Yao Han doesn't continue pursuing the events that transpired in the classroom, Wang Dao heaves a sigh of relief and replies. Is there any female teachers in the academy who has Bai in their name? Recalling the fellow who beat him up the previous day, Yao Han's anger billows. Bai? The most famous one of them all is the academy's female goddess, Shen Bai Ru.
I heard that Zhang Zan Lao Shi wanted to court her as well.
He is truly a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Halfway through his words, Wang Dao pauses abruptly. Before this, everyone knew that Zhang Zan's abilities were subpar and his capability as a teacher was horrendous as well.
With such standards, he dared to pursue the academy's female goddess Shen Bai Ru.
That's why everyone termed him as such. Now that Wang Dao has experienced the other party's strength firsthand and understands that he is on a different level from him, he finds it unnatural to continue saying that he is a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Shen Bai Ru? Zhang Zan wants to court her? Yao Han's eyes light up as he comes to a realization. The person whom the fellow yesterday was talking about must be her. He continues asking, other than Zhang Lao Shi, is there anyone else who is courting her? Shen Lao Shi is incredibly beautiful. The teachers who wish to court her are far too many for me to count. However, the most famous of them all is the grandson of elder Shang Chen, Shang bin Lao Shi. After pondering for a moment, Wang Dao looks over in suspicion. Why is Butler Yao asking such a question? Oh, I'm just casually asking. Yao Han doesn't touch any further on the topic, but a glint flashes past his eyes.
I will be able to ascertain it after looking into whether this Shang Bin had gotten into a conflict with Zhang Zan yesterday.
If it really is him, regardless of whether he is the son of an elder, I would definitely make him suffer. When had the butler of the Baiyu city lord, a figure that rises above the others, standing beneath only an individual, suffered such a great injustice? If he doesn't seek vengeance on him, it would be hard to quell the resentment accumulating in his heart. For it, he is willing to turn into a demon. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. While Yao Han is still considering whom he should find to gather intelligence, the person in question, Shang Bin, had just finished conducting a lesson and had left his classroom when he met a young man. Cao Shang Lao Shi. Chapter 25, Shang Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi to young master Cao Shang says respectfully. Cao Shang Lao Shi, you were looking for me? Shang Bin looks over with a puzzled expression. They might be both teachers of the academy and they often bump into one another. But their relationship is still stuck at the level of an acquaintance.
Indeed. I have something which I would have to trouble Shang Xiaoyi with.
Cao Shang hesitates for a moment before speaking. As long as it is something I could help you with, I will try my best. Cao Shang replies. As the grandson of elder Shang Chen, there are quite a few teachers who come looking for him for favors every day and he has long gotten used to it. Is that so? Yesterday, I took much difficulty in admitting a student under my tutelage, but he was snatched away by another teacher through deception.
Isn't Elder Shang in charge of the Education Bureau?
I would like to ask if it is possible to transfer the student back to me. Cao Shang says.
Lu Yang is the best student which he spent a lot of effort to recruit.
Yet, he lost him to Zhang Zan due to that bet. When he returned, he got angrier and angrier the more he thought about it. Eventually, he couldn't bear it anymore and came to look for Shang Bin today.
Shang Bin's grandfather is Elder Shang Chen, the head of the Academy's Education Bureau.
Allocating a student to another teacher would be quite a simple feat for him. Transfer back? Shang Bin frowns. If that student willingly came under the other person's tutelage, it would be difficult. You also know that students are much more troublesome nowadays. If they are dissatisfied with anything, they would report the incident to the royal court and the teacher union, then we will. He isn't willing.
I can guarantee that.
Cao Shang hurriedly replies. Even if he isn't willing, if the other teacher is unwilling to let him go, it won't be easy as well. You know the school rules. Shang Bin waves his hand. Suddenly, he raises his head and asks, just now, you said, deception? May I know which teacher is the one who coaxed your student over? It is our academy's trash teacher, Zhang Zan.
Speaking of that young man, Cao Shang clenches his jaws and hatred could be plainly seen on his face.
Zhang Zan? Your student was coaxed over by him? Hearing that name once again, Shang Bin's rage burns once again. If it wasn't for this fellow, he would definitely be able to get a dinner date with his goddess. A fellow who is only Fighter 3 Dan and scored a 0 for him teacher qualification examination would actually dare to disregard his authority. He is seeking for death. If it wasn't for the presence of the goddess yesterday such that it was inconvenient to resort to physical means, he would have definitely beat him until he is on the verge of dying. Yes. Since he is that kind of teacher, no humans would be willing to become his student. So, I would like to trouble Shang Xiaoyi to help me bring up this matter with Elder Shang and allocate my student back. Cao Shang says carefully, afraid that the other party would refuse his request. There is no need to bring this up with Elder Shang, I will settle this matter for you now. Shang Bin waves his hand majestically. You're going to settle the matter for me? The other teachers might still require the help of my grandfather for the reallocation process, but since we're talking about the useless trash Zhang Zan, why do we have to go through so much trouble? We just have to go to him straight, and if he refuses, we will cripple him. Shang Bin gestures grandly. He might be at a loss and means to deal with other teachers, but towards the one who scored a 0 for the teacher qualification examination, it is simply too easy for him to make a stand to teach him a lesson. Disregarding his weak abilities, the crux of it is that no one in the academy would possibly come in his defense. The most important point of all is that he had intended to give Zhang Zan a good thrashing to vent his frustration, but he had been vexed over the lack of a suitable justification for it. If he were to strike without a suitable justification, he would surely leave a bad impression with Shen Bai Ru if she were to find out. But now, he has duped away the student of another teacher and the person in question has come over seeking for his help. He could make use of this reason to lash out at him. He didn't expect that Shang Bin would be so generous. Cao Shang is taken aback. There is no need for this. Come with me. If you're afraid, I will do it for you. The corners of Shang Bin's lip curl upwards as a glint of brutality flashes across his eyes. "Then, I will be thanking Shang Xiaoyi in advance." Cao Shang's eyes light up excitedly as he nods his head hurriedly. The two of them move towards Zhang Zan's classroom with widened strides. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the entrance of Zhang Zan's classroom to see the mummy-like Yao Han and the young master of the Wang family. "Wang Dao, what are you doing here instead of training over at grandfather's?" Shang Bin frowns. He might be the grandson of elder Shang Chen, but he is still a little off in terms of standing in comparison to Wang Dao. Shang Bin Lao Shi. Wang Dao bows. "My younger sister was duped to attend lessons here. I intend to take her back." Shang Bin? Yao Han was still considering whom he should gather intelligence on Shang Bin from when he heard that the young man before him is Shang Bin. He hurriedly lifts his head to take a good look at him. "You mean Wang Yingxiaoji?" Shang Bin's face darkens. Coldness radiates out of his eyes as he declares that Zhang Zan is really too daring. To dare to dupe even Wang Xiaoji, he must be tired of living. Looks like if I don't teach him a lesson, it would be hard to appease the crowd. Xiaoji to young mistress, indeed. Wang Dao nods his head. Since Wang Ying Xiaoji was duped to come under his tutelage, why don't you barge in to stop him, and chose to wait here instead? Harumphing, Shang Bin looks over with a puzzled expression. That. Wang Dao dares not to admit that he was thrown out. Scratching his head, just when he is perplexed over how he should answer, Yao Han, who is beside him, says, "Isn't there a rule in the academy that states that entry into a classroom is disallowed in the midst of a lesson? Thus, we could only wait outside for the lessons to end." This is. Only now does Shang Bin notice the mummy-like Yao Han. This is the butler of City Lord Zhao of Baiyu City, Yao Han. Wang Dao hurriedly introduces him. "So, it is Butler Yao. I have long heard of your name." Shang Bin nods his head and continues, "There is such a rule in the academy that no one is allowed to barge into the classroom in the midst of a lesson. However, it doesn't matter in this case. You all can follow behind me to enter the classroom. Today, I will personally take care of the fellow who has no morals as a teacher and goes around conning others." "All right." Hearing that he is going to make a move, Wang Dao's eyes light up and follows closely behind him. Yao Han hesitates for a moment before following behind them. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. In the classroom. Hongtian 9 Dan formula. It might be the most basic cultivation technique of Hongtian Academy, but there are quite a few problems with it. For example, the 5 students sit in the classroom, listening attentively to Zhang Zan's explanations. Despite it only being the first lecture, they are all incomparably shocked. It is as though they have consumed ginseng fruit and is getting drunk on his words. The few students present in the classroom, with the exception of Yuan Dao, have exceptional backgrounds. They might have never gone to an academy, but they had learned everything systematically. They have undergone lectures of many different teachers and even had the privilege of having Fighter 5 Dan and 6 Dan experts offering them pointer. However, they had never been to such a lesson in their entire life. The lecture gives them a feeling of enlightenment. They found themselves suddenly comprehending many things that they were perplexed in the past. The breath in their body seems to be tempted to follow the methods which the teacher is describing to them, and a sensation that they would be able to break through any time now gushes through them. The lecture is simply too well said. Hearing Zhang Zan's lessons, they realize that even the supposed high-level teachers pale greatly in comparison to him. This is especially so for Zhao Ya. As the daughter of a city lord, her father often deciphers cultivation techniques for her. Initially, she had always thought that her father is the best lecturer in the entire Tianxuan kingdom. After all, her father's strength is clear for all to see. However, in comparison to Zhang Laoshi, she feels like a frog in the well. It is laughable. There is totally no way to compare the both of them at all. Zhang Laoxi's explanations are spot on. No matter how incredible the cultivation technique and battle technique is, he is able to immediately spot the flaws in it, causing one to be shocked and go into deep thoughts, unable to calm the agitation in them for a long period of time. Often, a single deciphering sentence of Zhang Laoxi would send them into thoughts for half a day. After they finally comprehend it after much difficulty, they would realize that he had already been talking for a long period of time and that they had missed many of the knowledge which he had imparted then. Zhang Laoxi's standards are way too high. At this moment, the 5 students finally understand how deep the foundations of battle techniques and how wide the tree of knowledge is within this young man who isn't much older than them. Previously, I laughably thought that Zhang Laoxi had simply lucked out to make my strength soar instantaneously. Only now do I realize that, given his wisdom, it is a small feat for him to accomplish such greatness. There are more than 100 methods for him to make my strength increase by a fold. The previously arrogant Lu Yang couldn't help but tremble on the spot, in comparison to him, Zhang Laoxi. Sigh, I better not compare the two of them. They are at totally different heights, there is no way to compare the two of them. It is like they both exist in different worlds. It is fortunate that they made that bet, otherwise, how could I possibly meet such a great teacher? The 5 students are each listening attentively to the lecture in agitation, afraid that they would miss some important knowledge. Jia! The door to the classroom is pushed open and a few men walk in with large strides.